The sign went into my front yard at 9:12 on a Tuesday morning. At 10:17, Ethan left me a voicemail. Dad, call me as soon as you get this. At 10:31, Connor called and said, Dad, what the hell are you doing? Neither of my sons had called me Dad in 6 years. I stood in the kitchen with Connor's voice against my ear and watched a stranger in a red knit cap hammer the last metal stake into my lawn. He gave the frame 2 hard shakes, stepped back, and admired his work. The sign had Denise Krawczyk's smiling face in one corner and "Coming Soon" stretched across the middle in blue letters. Are you there? Connor asked. I'm here. Then say something. All right, what would you like me to say? He breathed into the phone. Connor had always been an audible breather when he was angry. As a teenager, he could make a whole room aware of his outrage without using a word. At 34, he had added vocabulary, but the breathing still arrived first. Tell me this is some kind of mistake. The man in the red cap looked toward the house. I lifted one finger to let him know I'd be outside in a minute. He gave me a thumbs up, climbed into his truck, and drove away without needing anything from me. I liked him immediately. It's not a mistake, I said. You're selling the house? That's generally what the sign means. Jesus, Dad. There it was again. Not Tom. Not a stiff little hey at the beginning of a call. Dad. I looked around the kitchen as if the word might have entered through a window and landed somewhere. The room was brighter than it had been in years. Denise had talked me into taking down the heavy valance over the sink, and without it, the late morning sun showed every scratch in the oak cabinets. Marlene had picked those cabinets in 1994 because a magazine said honey oak was timeless. Time had disagreed. How did you even find out? I asked. What? The sign hasn't been up an hour. Ethan saw the listing. Ethan checks real estate listings in my neighborhood before lunch. He got an alert. For my address? I don't know how alerts work, Tom. The name came back so easily I almost smiled. Connor caught it too. There was a small silence, the kind that forms after a glass slips, but before it hits the floor. Then he said, Did you tell Mom? No. Did you tell anybody? Denise knows. That seemed important. Who's Denise? My agent. You have an agent. I'd have trouble selling it without one. Could you stop answering like this? Like what? Like I'm calling about a used lawnmower. I leaned against the counter. I don't know what answer you want, Connor. I want to know why my father is selling the house I grew up in, without bothering to mention it. I watched a pickup slow in front of the sign. The driver leaned over the steering wheel for a better look, then continued down the street. Denise had warned me that a sign could make neighbors appear out of thin air. People who had ignored your property for 15 years suddenly needed to know your asking price, your moving date, and whether your marriage had failed. Mine had, but that part wasn't breaking news. You grew up here, I said. You don't live here. That's not the point. What is the point? I'm coming over. I didn't ask you to. I'll be there after work. He hung up. I kept the phone against my ear until the screen went dark. Then I played Ethan's voicemail again. Dad, call me as soon as you get this. 8 words, if you counted, Dad. 7 if you didn't. I had learned to stop counting a long time ago. Denise arrived 20 minutes later, carrying 2 coffees and a roll of blue painter's tape around her wrist like a bracelet. She was 58, recently divorced, and incapable of walking past a crooked picture frame. She'd sold the house across the street after Mr. and Mrs. Kessler moved to Arizona, and I'd watched her turn their 3-bedroom ranch into something called an entertainer's dream without adding a single square foot. You've got activity already, she said, handing me a coffee. 23 saves. Is that good? It's good for 40 minutes. What's good for 41? Don't start. She went straight to the dining room and peeled a tiny square of tape off the roll. Denise used blue tape to mark anything she wanted me to remove, repair, repaint, or reconsider. My house had spent the previous 3 weeks developing blue measles. She put a fresh square on a small brass hook near the doorway. That hook has been there since before you were born, I said. And now it can retire. It holds Christmas cards. It's July. That's why it's empty. She stared at me. I took the tape off the hook and stuck it to her sleeve. Your sons know yet? She asked. They know now. How'd that go? They remembered my job title. She glanced at me, then toward the front windows. Denise was good at leaving a question alone when she knew the answer would show up eventually. Instead, she said, The photographer did nice work upstairs. He made Connor's room look wider than it is. He used the right lens. If Connor had known about that lens, he might have spent more time cleaning it. The upstairs rooms had been empty for almost a month. Ethan still had 2 pale rectangles on the wall, where his framed baseball posters had hung. Connor's closet smelled faintly of the rubber floor mat he'd bought for a weight bench and used exactly 4 times. I had packed what remained into separate plastic bins and labeled them Ethan and Connor in black marker. Denise had suggested I drop the bins at their homes before the listing photographs. I hadn't. They were stacked in the garage beneath an artificial Christmas tree Marlene insisted I keep because the branches were still perfectly good. Marlene lived 18 minutes away in a condo with Cal and had not asked to see the tree since she left. Denise moved into the living room and straightened a cushion I had already straightened. "You don't have to stay if Connor's coming," I said. "Is he the loud one or the quiet one?" "They alternate. Useful system. He'll want me to pull the listing. Do you want to?" "No." She pressed the cushion once with both palms. "Then don't." It was an easy sentence when somebody else said it. After she left, I went upstairs to check rooms that no longer contained anything worth checking. The house made different sounds when it was empty. The floorboard outside Ethan's room gave its familiar complaint, but without a bed or dresser inside, the creak traveled all the way to the far wall and came back thinner. I had intended to keep one of their rooms furnished. I'd told myself a buyer might appreciate seeing how a full-size bed fit under the window. Then I caught myself measuring the distance between the bed and the closet, not for a buyer, but in case one of my sons ever needed to come home. Ethan had his own home with Leah. Connor had an apartment downtown with a rooftop deck he liked to photograph more than use. They had places. I had possibilities I kept disguising as spare rooms. At 5 minutes after 6, a car door slammed outside. Connor had inherited my habit of arriving late, and his mother's talent for making lateness seemed like an accusation. He came through the front door without knocking. "Hello to you too," I called. He stopped in the entryway. Connor was tall, though not as tall as Ethan, with Marlene's dark hair and a beard he kept trimmed so carefully it looked penciled on. He wore charcoal work pants and a white shirt with the sleeves rolled to his elbows. His tie was shoved into one pocket. A person who didn't know him would have thought he looked relaxed. His eyes moved past me into the living room. "Where is everything?" "In various places." "The bookcase?" "Sold it." "You sold the bookcase?" "A woman from Strongsville picked it up Sunday." He walked into the room and stared at the lighter rectangle on the wall where it had stood. "That was Grandpa's." "No, it wasn't." "Yes, it was. It came from Value City in 2003. He turned to me. "Are you sure?" I assembled it. One shelf was backward for 20 years. He looked at the wall again, perhaps disappointed that the woman from Strongsville had not stolen an heirloom. "What else did you sell? Things I don't need. Did it occur to you that Ethan or I might want some of them?" "It occurred to me that you might have answered one of the 3 group messages I sent about cleaning out the house." "You said you were decluttering." "I was." "You didn't say you were erasing the whole place." I looked toward the empty wall. "The bookcase was particle board, Connor. It'll recover." He rubbed both hands over his face. When he dropped them, some of the anger had gone, leaving him tired. "Can we sit down? We can stand if this is going to be brief." "Dad?" The word stopped me again. He must have seen it, because his expression changed. Not much. Just enough to tell me he had remembered too. I went into the kitchen and pulled out 2 chairs. The dining table had been cleared for photographs, so the bowl of keys, unopened mail, and spare batteries that normally lived there had migrated into a cardboard box beneath the stairs. Denise called that creating a blank canvas. I called it not knowing where my flashlight was. Connor sat across from me. "How long have you been planning this?" he asked. "A while." "What does that mean?" "I met Denise in May. It's July. I know the months." "And you never thought to tell us?" "I thought about it. That's worse." "Probably." He waited for me to add something. When I didn't, he leaned back and looked around the kitchen. His gaze stopped at the empty space above the sink. "Where's Mom's curtain?" "It wasn't your mother's curtain. She made it. She bought it at JCPenney. She altered it. She cut the tag off." His mouth twitched despite himself. "You hated that curtain. I hated what it did to daylight. You said it made the kitchen look like a funeral home. I was younger then. I had stronger opinions about fabric." He smiled, and for half a second, I could see him at 28, before the wedding, before Cal's toast, before we learned how efficiently two men could use ordinary words to keep each other at a distance. Then he looked out at the sign. "Where are you going?" he asked. "I haven't decided. How can you sell your house without knowing where you're going? The order is more flexible than you think. You could end up anywhere. That's generally what going somewhere means." He slapped one palm on the table, not hard enough to make a scene, but hard enough to end the joke. "Can you please take this seriously? I signed a listing agreement. I cleaned out 30 years of junk. I painted your bedroom twice because the first gray looked purple at sunset. I've taken it seriously." My bedroom? The room formerly known as your bedroom. He stood so fast his chair scraped the floor. I followed him upstairs. He reached the landing and stopped at the first open doorway. The gray walls were clean, the carpet vacuumed into neat stripes. The curtains were gone. So were the dented pine dresser, the college pennant, the lamp with the bent neck, and the faded comforter he had never liked enough to take. Connor stepped inside slowly. "You painted over it. Over what?" "The marks." I knew what he meant then. Behind the door, Marlene had penciled dates and heights from the time the boys were young. Ethan's line rose above Connor's until the summer Connor grew nearly 3 inches and accused his brother of standing on his toes. I had painted the wall without photographing it. "The place needed paint," I said. He touched the spot where the lines had been. For the first time since he arrived, he wasn't angry. Anger would have been easier. "You could have told me," he said. I looked at his hand against the blank wall and found I didn't have a dry answer ready. Downstairs, my phone rang. Ethan's name appeared on the screen. Connor looked at it too. "Call him back," he said. "I will, now." I let it ring once more before answering. Ethan didn't bother with hello. "Dad, don't accept anything. I haven't received anything." "Good, don't." Connor leaned closer to the phone. "I'm here." "I figured you would be," Ethan said. "I'm coming Saturday. Leah too, if that's all right." No one asked whether it was all right for Connor to come. They rarely did. The house had always been treated as open family territory, even after the family stopped treating me as part of it. "I have showings scheduled Saturday," I said. "Cancel them," Ethan replied. "Give us 1 week. 1 week for what? To talk. To figure this out before you do something you can't undo." I looked at Connor's hand still resting on the wall where the height marks used to be. He wouldn't meet my eyes. Outside, another car slowed beside the sign. 1 week, I said. Connor exhaled. Ethan's voice softened with relief. "Thank you, Dad." I closed my eyes. It was a bad reason to delay selling a house. It was also the only reason that it worked. Denise made me say it twice. "You want me to cancel 4 showings because your sons asked for a week? Postpone, not cancel." 3 of those people rearrange work. They can rearrange it back. You know that isn't how work works. I worked for 42 years, and now you're making mine harder. She was quiet long enough for me to hear her click a pen several times. "I'll move them to next weekend," she said. "The listing stays active. The sign stays up. The photographer is not coming back because someone misses an ugly curtain. That seems fair. And next Tuesday, we proceed." That's what I said. "No, you said 1 week in the voice of a man who has allowed his family to turn 1 week into most of his adult life. I don't think that's an official real estate term. It's in the appendix." She hung up before I could thank her. Connor was waiting at the bottom of the stairs. He had one of the plastic bins from the garage in his arms, the one with his name across the lid. "You boxed my stuff? I thought the label might have given that away." He set the bin on the dining room floor and opened it. On top was an old green sweatshirt, the sleeves folded across the chest. Beneath it were 2 trophies, a stack of magazines, a broken alarm clock, and a ceramic ashtray he'd made, even though neither Marlene nor I smoked. He held up the ashtray. It was brown, uneven, and shaped like a potato with a dent in the middle. "You kept this?" "It's a fine piece. You told me it looked like something a bear left in the woods." "I can dislike an object and still feel responsible for it," he laughed. "That might be the most Tom sentence you've ever said." I looked at him. His smile faded. "Sorry. You don't have to apologize for my name." "I know." "Do you?" He put the ashtray back in the bin with more care than it deserved. "I'm going to take this home." "Good. All of it." That was the idea. He lifted the sweatshirt and held it against himself. "This thing probably has its own ecosystem. It's older than your beard. Most things are." We carried the bin to his car. He returned for a second one, filled with cords, books, framed photographs, and a set of dumbbells he swore belonged to Ethan. He insisted on taking those too, apparently out of fear that I might sell them to the same woman who had taken the bookcase. When his trunk was full, he stood beside the driver's door with his keys in his hand. "You eaten?" I asked. "Not yet. I've got meatloaf." He hesitated just long enough to make the offer feel larger than it was. "You still put the ketchup glaze on top?" "No. I abandon all tradition when I remove the curtain. Then I'll risk it." We ate at the kitchen table with the windows open. The evening was warm, and the neighbors' wind chimes made a pleasant sound every 40 seconds, and an irritating one every 15. Connor finished 2 slices of meatloaf and scraped up the onions with his fork. "You make this for yourself?" he asked. I wasn't expecting the governor. "I mean, you cook like this when nobody's here? Sometimes I even use plates." He nodded, embarrassed by his own question. My sons had developed a vague picture of my life as a series of waiting periods between their visits. I existed in a chair, perhaps beneath a sheet to keep off the dust, until one of them needed a battery charger. Connor drank some water. "Are you unhappy here?" The question surprised me enough that I took a second to answer. "I'm not unhappy. That isn't what I asked." "Yes, it is. You know what I mean? I know what you want to mean." He set down his glass. "Why are you making this so difficult? You asked if I was unhappy. I'm not. The house is paid for. The neighborhood's quiet. I know which grocery store carries decent tomatoes. Then why leave?" I cut another bite of meatloaf I didn't want, because those aren't the same thing as reasons to stay. He looked toward the living room, where the blank wall was visible through the doorway. "What do you want instead?" "I don't know yet." That bothered him more than if I had named a city on the other side of the country. Connor liked dissatisfaction to come with a proposal. If a restaurant was too loud, he wanted a better one identified before the check arrived. "You could rent it out," he said. "You wouldn't have to sell. I don't want to be a landlord. Ethan and I could help." "With what?" "With managing things. You live 40 minutes away, 32 without traffic. Renters famously avoid creating problems during traffic." He smiled despite himself, then caught himself smiling. "I'm serious," he said. "So am I." My phone buzzed on the counter. Ethan had sent a message to a group thread that had not been active since the previous Thanksgiving. "Saturday at 10. We'll bring coffee." Connor read it from his seat. He made a group chat for this. It already existed. The last message is from you asking what time everyone was coming for Thanksgiving. I remember. There were no replies beneath that message. Marlene had texted me separately that year. Ethan assumed Connor had answered. Connor assumed Ethan had. They both arrived at 2. Connor picked up my phone and typed, "I'm already here." Almost immediately, 3 dots appeared. Ethan replied, "Of course you are." Connor snorted. "What's that supposed to mean?" "Probably that you're already here. He always does that, uses accurate descriptions. He acts like I'm trying to get ahead of him." "Are you?" Connor put my phone down. "No." Then he took another helping of meatloaf before I could. At exactly 10:08 Saturday morning, Ethan pulled into the driveway in Leah's blue SUV. Ethan considered anything within 10 minutes of the agreed time punctual, a standard he applied to himself, but not to airlines. He came in carrying a cardboard tray with 4 coffees and a yellow legal pad tucked under one arm. Leah followed with a white bakery box. "I brought insurance," she said, lifting it, "in case this becomes a meeting." Leah was 38, small and direct, with pale blonde hair she'd recently cut short. She hugged me with one arm because the other was holding the box. Unlike my sons, she had never changed what she called me. It had always been Tom, which meant it had never felt like a weapon. Ethan handed me a coffee. Black, 1 sugar. That's right, I know. He said it with unnecessary firmness, as if someone had challenged him. Connor arrived 2 minutes later, carrying his ceramic ashtray in a grocery bag. "I brought evidence," he announced. Leah opened the bakery box on the dining table. "I brought cheese Danish. Yours looks less edible." Ethan took the ashtray and turned it over. "Why did you make a bowl for gravy?" "It's an ashtray. It can be 2 bad things." They laughed. Connor reached for it, and Ethan held it above his head, the way he had when they were young. Connor could easily have taken it now, but for a few seconds he pretended he couldn't. Leah watched them with an expression that was part amusement, part fatigue. I stood there holding my coffee. It would be easy to say the room felt like old times. It didn't. Old times had contained Marlene telling them to stop, the television too loud, backpacks in the doorway, somebody asking where their shoes were. This was four adults borrowing gestures from a family that no longer existed. It was still pleasant. Ethan put the ashtray on the table and tapped his legal pad. I thought we could make a list. Of what? I asked. Questions, options, things we need to know. We, Dad, can we please not get stuck on pronouns? Pronouns seem to be doing a lot of work. Leah took a Danish and moved toward the kitchen. I'm getting a plate before somebody creates a subcommittee. Ethan ignored her. First question, he said. What's the asking price? You've seen the listing. I've seen the list price. I'm asking what you actually need. For the house? For whatever you're planning. I'm planning to sell the house. And then what? Then I stop owning it. Connor sat at the table. He doesn't know where he's going. Ethan looked at me sharply. You don't? I have ideas. What ideas? A smaller place. Maybe closer to downtown. Downtown where? Somewhere with a downtown. He lowered the pad. Are you having money problems? No. You can tell us. I just did, because if you need help, I don't need help. Ethan leaned back, studying me with the concern people use when they have already decided you are withholding a diagnosis. Leah returned with 3 plates. She set one in front of him. He said he doesn't need help, she said. I heard him. Then you can cross it off. I'm trying to understand why he'd make a major decision out of nowhere. Leah looked at me. Was it out of nowhere? No. How long have you been thinking about it? About 2 years. Both sons stared at me. Connor spoke first. 2 years? On and off? Why didn't you say anything? Ethan asked. I didn't know I needed to announce thoughts. You announce when you're changing your furnace filter. That affects whether I can come fix yours. Leah hid a smile behind her coffee cup. We spent the next hour walking through the house. Ethan made notes as if he were inspecting a property for a nervous client. Roof age, furnace age, property taxes. He opened the breaker panel and frowned at labels I had written myself. Connor drifted behind us, touching doors, window sills, the new paint in his old room. In Ethan's room, he stood at the window and looked down into the backyard. You took out the basketball hoop. The pole rusted through. When? 3 summers ago. You didn't tell me. I didn't hold a service. He ran his thumb along the windowsill. Leah wants to redo our guest room. Leah was in the hallway. She stopped moving. That's nice, I said. We haven't decided, she said. Ethan turned from the window. We've talked about it. We've talked about a lot of things. Something passed between them, quick and practiced. Connor saw it too. He moved to the closet and opened the empty door for no reason. Ethan tapped the legal pad against his leg. We should look at the garage. We went downstairs. The garage held the remaining bins, the artificial tree, my tools, 2 bicycles, and a stack of folding chairs nobody had used since Marlene left. Ethan found his name on 3 containers and crouched beside them. Is all this mine? Unless Connor developed an interest in tax accounting. He opened the top bin. Inside were college textbooks, a desk lamp, 2 framed certificates, and a pair of brown dress shoes. Leah picked up 1 shoe. I've never seen these. First job interview, Ethan said. You kept interview shoes at your father's house for 15 years? They were uncomfortable. So was the interview? I got the job. You never wore them again. I didn't need to interview again. She placed the shoe carefully back in the bin. Ethan avoided her eyes. We'll take these today. You don't have room in the SUV, she said. We can make room. For 3 bins and a Christmas tree? The tree isn't mine. From behind us, Connor said. Mom says it is. We all turned. He was holding his phone. What do you mean, Mom says? Ethan asked. Connor's expression had tightened into the look he wore when he had news he did not want blamed on him. She saw the listing. She called me. No one said anything. She's coming tomorrow, he added, with Cal. Ethan looked at me. Leah closed the lid on the bin. I reached for my coffee, remembered I had left it inside, and said, Then somebody better take that damn tree. Cal took the tree. That was Ethan's solution, delivered through Connor, who volunteered to call our mother because Ethan said he needed to think strategically. What he meant was that Marlene could make a question last 45 minutes, and Connor was better at ending phone calls. Connor put her on speaker. "I don't understand why Tom can't keep it until Christmas," Marlene said. I was 3 feet away carrying one of Ethan's bins toward the garage door. "He's selling the house, Mom. I know that. I've seen the sign. So he can't keep storing things there. It's one tree. It takes up half a wall. That's an exaggeration. It's 8 feet tall. It was expensive. In 2007. It's still perfectly good." Connor looked at me and covered the phone with his palm. "She says Cal will take it." "I can hear her," I said. "And I can hear him," Marlene said. "Tell your father Cal will take it tomorrow." "I'm his father too," Ethan called from the driveway. "Why is Connor doing all the talking?" "Because you're outside," Marlene replied. She had always been able to win an argument by stating the physical arrangement. Leah was reorganizing the back of the SUV, moving reusable shopping bags, an emergency blanket, and a case of bottled water to make room for Ethan's bins. Ethan stood beside her, offering instructions she did not request. "If you turn that one lengthwise, it won't fit lengthwise. It should. It knows its own shape, Ethan." He took the bin from her and tried it. It did not fit. Leah looked at me over the raised hatch. "He comes from a long line of spatial optimists." "I heard that," Ethan said. "It was for you." I carried the second bin out and set it on the driveway. Ethan wiped his forehead with the back of his hand. He still wore a button-down shirt, though he had rolled the sleeves. Connor had changed into an old t-shirt he found in his bin, dark green with cracked white lettering across the chest. It was too tight in the shoulders, which pleased him more than it should have. "You still have the hand truck?" Ethan asked. "Behind the lawnmower." He went into the garage. Leah watched him disappear, then picked up the brown interview shoes, which had been placed on top of the bin. "He won't throw these away," she said. "They might become comfortable. He says that about things." Her tone was light, but she looked tired. "Everything all right?" I asked. She lowered the shoes. "He's been under pressure. At work, at being Ethan." I waited. Leah smiled, but it was the kind used to close a door politely. "He'll tell you if he wants to." That was unlikely. My sons had inherited my ability to protect a feeling until it starved. Ethan came back with the hand truck, and whatever opening had appeared was gone. We spent the rest of Saturday moving boxes and making arguments. Connor wanted the framed picture from the upstairs hall, a black and white photograph of the 4 of us at Niagara Falls. Marlene had asked a stranger to take it, and the stranger captured Ethan blinking, Connor scowling, and me holding a rain poncho in front of my body like an apron. Marlene alone looked delighted. "You can have it," I said. "Don't you want it?" "I have copies." "Where?" "Somewhere you'll criticize when I pack it." He took the photograph but left the nail in the wall. I removed the nail after he went downstairs and filled the hole with spackle. Ethan found the folding card table we use for holiday dinners and asked whether I planned to sell it. "You hate that table," Leah said. "I don't hate it. You complain every time you sit at it. The legs are in the wrong place. Tables are famous for that." He folded it halfway, tested the hinge, then set it back against the wall. By 4, they had taken 6 bins, 1 set of dumbbells, the Niagara Falls photograph, and neither of the old bicycles. Ethan said he would return with a truck. Connor said he needed to consult his building's storage rules, which was a more dignified way of saying he had no room. Before they left, Ethan stood beside the sign and took a photograph with his phone. "What's that for?" I asked. "I want the listing information. It's online." He put his phone away. "I know." Leah hugged me again. Connor did too, awkwardly, one arm around my shoulder while his keys pressed into my back. Ethan held out his hand. I looked at it. He looked at it too, as though surprised to find it there. Then he changed course and pulled me into a quick hug that consisted mostly of 2 chests bumping. "We'll figure something out," he said. It sounded less like comfort than a promise to defeat me. Marlene arrived Sunday at 11, carrying a covered glass dish. She had not asked whether I was serving lunch. She brought food in case I was, and enough to make me feel irresponsible if I wasn't. Cal followed with the artificial tree strapped to a metal cart. "Morning, Tom," he said. Cal. He was 66, broad through the middle, with a gray mustache and wire-framed glasses. I had spent years imagining it would be easier to hate him if he were handsome. Instead, he looked like a man who gave detailed directions at gas stations. He nodded toward the tree. "Connor said this was coming with us." Marlene said it. I'm staying out of that distinction. Smart. We wheeled the tree down the driveway together. Cal did not mention the sign. He glanced at it once, then concentrated on getting the cart over the lip of the garage floor. Marlene was already inside. I found her in the kitchen with the cover off her dish. Deviled eggs. 12 of them, dusted with paprika. "You took down the valance," she said. It blocked the light. It softened the room. It made noon look like 6:30. She ran one finger along the clean strip above the window. Her hair was shorter than when she left, and mostly silver now, cut into a smooth shape around her face. She wore a navy blouse I didn't recognize, and the small gold earrings Connor had given her one Christmas. She looked good. I resented that briefly, then resented myself for noticing. "You could have offered it to me," she said. I threw it away. Her finger stopped. "It was stained," I added. "I washed it every spring. You haven't washed it in 8 springs. She turned. "You're counting?" "No." "I remember when you moved." Cal appeared in the doorway without the tree. "I can go back outside," he said. "We're talking about curtains," Marlene told him. "Those are how wars begin." He took a deviled egg, then appeared to remember the dish had not been offered. He held it uncertainly. "Eat it," I said. "Thank you." Marlene put the glass cover back on with more force than necessary. "I want to see upstairs. The stairs are where you left them." She gave me the same look she used to give when I made a joke at the wrong point in an argument. Then she went. Cal chewed slowly. She was upset. "She has a condo." "I meant about the listing." "I know what you meant," he nodded. "I figured you did." There were questions I had once wanted to ask Cal. When had it started? Who reached first? Had they discussed me while I sat 10 feet away at barbecues? Over time, those questions had lost their sharpness. The answers would not alter a morning, much less a marriage. "You knew?" I asked. "About the house?" "Yesterday. She didn't tell you sooner? She found out yesterday." "No, I mean, did you know I was considering it?" He shook his head. "Why would I? Marlene generally knows things before I do. Not about you." I couldn't tell whether he meant it kindly. A sound came from upstairs, one sharp knock followed by silence. Marlene called my name. Not Tom, just my name, the way she had called it when a pipe burst in the laundry room. I went up. Cal stayed with the eggs. She was standing in Connor's old room behind the open door. "Where are they?" I knew immediately. "I painted. I can see that." "Where are the measurements?" "Under the paint." "You painted over them?" "The room needed it." Her face changed in a way Connor's had not. Connor had looked hurt. Marlene looked betrayed. "Why didn't you take a picture?" "I didn't think of it." "How could you not think of it?" "Because I was painting a wall. That was their whole childhood. It was pencil marks. It was dates. It was every year. Not every year. We forgot some." She stared at me as if that made it worse. I leaned against the doorframe. "Connor has already given me his opinion." "Did Ethan see?" "He was here yesterday." "And?" "He didn't mention it. He was always less sentimental." That was not true. Ethan kept uncomfortable shoes for 15 years, but Marlene's version of each son had hardened early. Ethan was practical. Connor was sensitive. Ethan hated peas. Connor lost keys. Once assigned, a trait became part of the family furniture. She touched the painted wall. "You're really doing this," she said. "I hired a woman and put up a sign. I thought it might be a reaction." "To what?" She looked toward me. "I don't know." "That's interesting." Don't what?" "Turn everything into some test nobody knows they're taking." The remark landed close enough to something I had avoided naming that I straightened. "I'm selling my house." "Our house?" "No." The word came out harder than I intended. Marlene dropped her hand. I tried again. "It stopped being our house when you left. I understand that legally. I'm not talking legally. Neither am I." We stood in the room where Connor once slept, arguing over who was allowed to say our. Cal climbed halfway up the stairs and stopped where he could see us. "Everything okay?" "No," Marlene said. "Yes," I said. He rubbed his mustache. "Helpful." Marlene stepped into the hall. "The boys need time. They asked for a week. A week isn't enough. It was their number. They panicked. Why? Because you didn't tell them. They wouldn't have cared if the sign hadn't gone up. You don't know that. I sent 3 messages asking them to clear their things. That isn't the same as telling them you're dismantling their home. Again, they have homes. Marlene folded her arms. Do they? The question hung there. Cal looked down the stairs. I thought about Leah in the driveway, holding Ethan's shoes, about the guest room they had or had not discussed, about Ethan asking whether I needed money before admitting why he might need a room kept empty. What do you know? I asked. That both our sons are unsettled. Meaning? Meaning this is a bad time to take away the one stable place they've always had. They don't live here. You keep saying that like it settles everything. It settles where they live. She moved past me toward the stairs. Next Sunday, she said. Dinner, all of us. At your place? Here, of course. She looked back. One meal, Tom. We sit down, we talk honestly, and nobody makes a permanent decision because they're angry. I'm not angry. That's always when you're most angry. Downstairs, Cal had put the glass cover back over the deviled eggs without taking another. Marlene picked up her purse, but left the dish on the counter. For lunch, she said. You brought 12. I didn't know who would be here. She left before I could ask who else she expected to find in my kitchen. Cal paused at the door. I'll bring the folding table Sunday, he said. It's my folding table. He glanced toward Marlene's car, then back at me. I'll bring it anyway. After they drove off, I stood at the counter and ate one of Marlene's deviled eggs. It tasted exactly the same as it had when we were married. My phone buzzed. A message from Connor appeared in the family thread. Mom says dinner next Sunday at Dad's. A few seconds later, Ethan added a thumbs up. Nobody asked me what I wanted to cook. I replied, I'm making soup, Marlene answered first. For 6 people? Cal sent a bowl emoji. I had never received an emoji from Cal, and found it more unsettling than I should have. Ethan wrote, Leah and I can bring something. Connor added, I'll come early to help. 6 years of carefully limited conversation, and a real estate sign turned us into a family that coordinated side dishes. I put the phone face down and finished the deviled egg. By Monday morning, the thread contained 27 messages. Marlene wanted to know whether the dining table still extended. Ethan volunteered to bring wine. Connor asked if I needed chairs, though he had seen 12 folding chairs in my garage 2 days earlier. Leah proposed ordering food, which Marlene interpreted as criticism of my cooking. Cal sent another emoji, this time 2 hands held together in what I hoped was prayer. I stayed out of it until Marlene asked whether I still owned a roasting pan. I wrote, I sold it to the woman from Strongsville. Connor called immediately. You didn't. No, that isn't funny. It was a little funny. Mom's already upset. Your mother is arranging a state dinner in my dining room. She's trying. At what? He was quiet. That had become the question nobody wanted to answer. They were trying to stop the sale, trying to preserve the house, trying to help me, trying to help themselves. Each explanation sounded reasonable until it touched another one. Are the showings still canceled? He asked. Until tomorrow? I thought you gave us a week. Tomorrow is a week. No, it isn't. I looked at the calendar hanging beside the refrigerator. The sign went up last Tuesday. I meant a full week. That's what 7 days are. I meant until we had the dinner. You didn't mention a dinner. Your mother invented it Sunday. She thinks we should all talk. Then we'll talk. And you won't accept an offer before then? I didn't say that. He let out one of his long breaths. Dad, can you just wait? I stared at the calendar. There were old appointments written in squares I had stopped noticing. Dentist, furnace inspection, Ethan and Leah anniversary, underlined because I had once forgotten it. At the bottom, in Marlene's handwriting from years earlier, was the phone number for a plumber who had retired. Why? I asked. So we have time to figure out what's possible. What do you think is possible? I don't know yet. Then figure faster. That's not fair. No, it's a house. I hung up before he could tell me. Those were the same thing. Denise arrived at 10 with a folder tucked under her arm and no coffee for me. I took that as a professional rebuke. I spoke to the buyers who wanted Saturday, she said. 2 can come tomorrow evening. 1 moved on. Moved where? To another house. That was fast. People who are ready to buy tend to buy. She went into the living room and looked around for evidence that my family had undone her staging. Connor's grocery bag sat on the floor near the dining table, forgotten after he removed the ashtray. Denise lifted it with 2 fingers. What is this? An emotional artifact. It says Giant Eagle. The artifact came in a bag. She folded it into a square and put it beneath the sink. You told them 1 week, she said. I did. And They've scheduled dinner. Her eyebrows lifted. A powerful counteroffer. Deviled eggs were involved. She set the folder on the counter and opened it. Inside were printed copies of the listing, the showing schedule, and a page of comments from people who had viewed the photographs online. "Why print those?" I asked. "Because you don't open links." "I open links. You asked me if a QR code was a coupon. It looked like one." She showed me the comments. People liked the backyard. One thought the kitchen needed updating. Another called the upstairs bedrooms compact, a word I knew meant small without the courage of saying so. "Tomorrow at 6 and 6:30, she said. "You should be out of the house." "Where am I supposed to go?" "Take a walk." "For an hour? You could have dinner, alone." Denise looked at me. "I've been doing that for 8 years, I said. It wasn't a complaint. I didn't say it was. She closed the folder. "Your sons don't get to delay this indefinitely." "They're not." "Your ex-wife?" "She gets even less. Does she know that?" "I assume someone will tell her. Not you. I'm busy selling a house." Denise studied me for a second, then softened. "You can change your mind, Tom." "I know, but if you do, make sure it's your mind." At 6 the next evening, I walked 3 blocks to a bar and grill where the hostess asked whether anyone would be joining me. I said no. She removed the second menu from the table with such sympathy that I nearly told her I was contagious. I ordered a burger and watched the time on my phone. At 6:14, Connor messaged, "Are you at the house?" "No. Why not? People are looking at it." The typing dots appeared, vanished, then returned. "You started showings." I ate a French fry. "Yes." He called before I could put the phone down. "You said you'd wait." "I waited a week, until Sunday." "No, you added Sunday." "Did you get an offer?" "They're still looking." "Who are they?" "I don't know." "You don't know who's walking through the house?" I assume Denise checked they weren't pirates. "Can I come over?" "Not while they're there. I'll wait outside." That's a good way to make buyers comfortable. "Dad?" A waitress passed and asked whether I needed ketchup. I covered the phone and said no. Connor heard anyway. "Where are you? Having dinner?" "By yourself?" The question came out too quickly. "Yes." "You could have called me." "You were invited to a hamburger?" "You know what I mean." I did, and that was the problem. For years, Connor had been too busy for dinners he knew I was having alone. Now, a stranger walked through his empty bedroom, and he wanted to keep me company. "Come by tomorrow," I said. "What time?" "After work. I can come before." "You have a job? I can work from your place." "I don't have Wi-Fi upstairs anymore." "What happened to it?" "Nothing. It's downstairs." He laughed, then tried to sound serious again. "Tomorrow, 5:30. "All right. And don't accept anything tonight." "Goodbye, Connor." The showing agent left feedback before I got home. The first couple liked the yard but worried about the bathrooms. The second wanted to know how flexible I was on price. Denise called it encouraging. I stood in the entryway after dark and smelled someone else's perfume in my living room. There was nothing wrong with the smell. It was clean and faintly floral. Still, I opened 2 windows. Connor arrived at 5:22 the next afternoon, carrying coffees in a paper sack from the bakery Leah liked. He had changed out of his work clothes and wore jeans and a gray t-shirt. "Black, 1 sugar," he said. "You too?" "What?" "Nothing." He handed me the cup and looked around. "Did they touch anything?" "The buyers?" "Yeah." I didn't dust for prints. He walked through the downstairs as if checking for damage after a party. In the kitchen, he opened a cabinet and closed it. "You could update these," he said. "For the buyers who think they need updating?" "For you. I'm leaving, if you stayed." I took a sip of coffee. "You brought pastries to argue with me?" "It worked Saturday. It delayed you until today." He smiled. "Come outside." I saw something. One of the porch boards near the steps had begun to lift. I had noticed it the week before and bought a replacement, but Denise had told me not to start a project before the photographs. Connor crouched and pressed the board with his palm. "This is loose. I know. Somebody could trip. Then stand up. I mean, a buyer. The new board is in the garage." We carried out my pry bar, a drill, and the replacement board. Connor insisted on doing the removal. He set the pry bar beneath the old wood, pushed down too hard, and nearly fell backward into the hydrangea. "You meant to do that?" I asked. "I was testing your reaction time. It's poor." We worked side by side without needing to discuss the work. He held the board steady while I measured. I held it while he drove the screws. The drill slipped once, and he swore exactly as I did, which made him accuse me of teaching him the word. "You learned plenty without me," I said. "That's what you think." The sentence could have opened something. I felt it there, waiting. Instead, I ran my hand over the board and said, "Needs paint." Connor sat back on his heels. "Of course it does." "What?" "Nothing." He gathered the screws from the grass. We painted the board, then touched up a section of railing Denise had marked. Connor found another patch near the side gate, and I let him paint that too. By the time we finished, the sun was low, and both our coffees were cold. "You remember when we rebuilt this whole porch?" he asked. "You were 15. Ethan quit after lunch. He said he had plans. He had a date. With who? I don't remember. You remember everything." "No, I remember hardware." Connor wiped paint from his thumb with a rag. "You didn't come to dinner after the wedding." There it was, no warning, no raised voice. I kept brushing paint into a narrow crack. "I was at the wedding. You know what I mean." "Yes." "Why did you leave?" The brush stopped. From the street, a woman walking a small white dog slowed to read the sign. The dog lifted one leg against the post. The woman pulled it away, glanced at us, and hurried on. Connor gave a short laugh. "Even the dog has an opinion." I set the brush on the paint can. "I shouldn't have left," I said. "That isn't an answer. It's what I've got right now." He looked disappointed, then angry at himself for expecting more. "Fine." He stood and carried the drill into the garage. I followed him. He put it on the workbench harder than necessary and stared at the tools hanging above it. "I used to think you'd explain eventually," he said. "I used to think you'd ask." I just did. Before I could answer, a car pulled into the driveway behind his. Ethan climbed out holding a yellow legal pad and a takeout bag. Leah remained in the passenger seat, looking straight ahead. Ethan lifted the bag. "Dinner," he said. "Dad, we need to talk about Sunday." Connor looked at me. I looked at Leah through the windshield. She still hadn't gotten out of the car. "Is Leah coming in?" I asked. Ethan glanced over his shoulder. "She has a headache." Leah turned her face toward him through the windshield. Even from 20 feet away, it was clear that whatever she had was not a headache. Connor wiped his hands on the paint rag. "What did you bring?" "Thai." "From Siam Orchid?" "Yes." "Did you get the noodles?" "I got enough food." That wasn't my question. Ethan's jaw tightened. "Go look." Connor took the bag and went inside. He gave me a look as he passed, a quick lift of his eyebrows toward the SUV. I walked down the driveway. Ethan stepped in front of me. "She's fine. I was going to ask if she wanted anything. She doesn't." The passenger door opened behind him. "I'd like to be asked directly," Leah said. She got out with her purse tucked under one arm. Her eyes were dry, her color normal. No headache that I recognized. "I have aspirin," I said. "I'm sure you do." "Two kinds. That sounds like you." She closed the door and looked at Ethan. "I'm coming in." He nodded once, as if approving a decision he had tried to prevent. Inside, Connor had spread the takeout containers across the kitchen table. Ethan had ordered enough for 10 people. Coconut curry, noodles, fried rice, dumplings, something with cashews, something with basil, and 3 containers nobody could identify because the lids had fogged over. "You forgot plates," I said. "I assumed you still had some," Ethan replied. "Risky." Leah took her usual seat beside him. Connor sat across from them, leaving me at the end. It was the same arrangement we had used when they were growing up, except Marlene's chair was empty. Ethan placed the yellow legal pad beside his plate. Connor pointed his fork at it. "Can we eat before the presentation?" "It isn't a presentation. You brought an agenda to noodles. I wrote down a few ideas. For Sunday, for the house." Leah reached for the curry. "He's been writing ideas since we left Saturday." "I've been thinking," Ethan said. "On paper," Connor said. "That's how we know it's serious." Ethan ignored him and looked at me. "I don't think Sunday should become an emotional free-for-all." "Your mother is coming," I said. "That's exactly why." Leah made a quiet sound that might have been a laugh. Ethan looked at her. "What?" "Nothing." "You keep saying nothing. Because you keep asking questions you don't want answered." Connor concentrated on opening a container. I passed Leah the rice. "Are you sure you don't want aspirin?" "I'm sure, Tom." Ethan put his fork down. Can we focus? We haven't started, Connor said. We're starting now. No, you're starting. I was fixing the porch with Dad. The word came out pointed this time, offered across the table like a card in a game. Ethan heard it. So did Leah. Ethan looked at the paint on Connor's forearm. You painted one board? We replaced it. Was it rotten? It was lifting. Did you check the joist? Connor stared at him. No, Ethan. The porch is going to collapse by morning. I'm asking. You're always asking in a tone that says, you already found the mistake. At least I ask. Connor's face changed. I knew where that road led. The joist is fine, I said. Eat. For a minute we did. The curry was hotter than I expected. I coughed once, and all three of them offered me water at the same time. Connor got up before I could say I already had a glass. Ethan pushed the pitcher toward him. Leah found a napkin. I swallowed wrong, I told them. I'm not crossing over. No one laughed as much as the sentence deserved. Connor sat down and wiped his mouth. All right. Ideas? Ethan turned the legal pad so the rest of us could see. His handwriting leaned forward hard enough to look like it was running. At the top, he had written options for house. Underneath were 5 numbered lines. 1. Delay sale 90 days. 2. Rent short term. 3. Family use/shared expenses. 4. Update then relist. 5. One of us takes over house. I read the list twice. What does number 5 mean? Connor asked. It means what it says. No, it doesn't. One of us could move in and cover costs. What costs? Taxes, insurance, maintenance. Why would one of us move in? Ethan picked up his fork. It's an option. Connor looked at Leah. She stared at her plate. I asked, do you need a place to live? No. Leah's eyes closed briefly. Ethan continued before anyone could respond. This isn't about me. Then who's moving in? Connor asked. I have an apartment. You've complained about that apartment for 2 years. I complain about the elevator. That doesn't mean I want my old room. You could use the entire 2nd floor. And you'd use what? I'm not saying I would. You wrote one of us. There are 2 of us. You're being weird. I'm trying to keep the house in the family. It is in the family, I said. I'm family. Ethan tapped the legal pad. You know what I mean. Yes, I do. That quieted him. Leah put her fork down carefully. Tell them. Ethan didn't look at her. There's nothing to tell, then tell them there's nothing. I just did. You've been sleeping in the guest room for 3 weeks. Connor lowered his fork. Ethan's face went still. Leah continued, speaking to the table rather than to any of us. And the night he saw the listing, he told me maybe it was a sign. A sign of what? Connor asked. That he had somewhere to go. Ethan pushed his chair back an inch. I said if things got worse, I wouldn't be stuck. Stuck, Leah repeated. That isn't how I meant it. It's the word you used. We were arguing. We're still arguing. Connor looked from one to the other. Are you separating? No, Ethan said. I don't know, Leah said at the same time. The kitchen seemed to shrink around us. Outside, the new porch board was probably still tacky. I thought about Ethan standing in his old room, telling me Leah wanted to redo the guest room. He had been measuring his alternatives before I understood there was a decision. Why didn't you tell me? Connor asked. Ethan gave a short, humorless laugh. What would you have done? I don't know. Called? You barely return calls. I return yours. 2 days later. At least I don't show up with a housing proposal and pretend it's about preserving family history. Ethan stood. I said it was one option. You want Dad to keep the house so you can move in. I want him not to sell it without thinking. He's been thinking for 2 years, he says. I felt that one more than I expected. What does that mean? I asked. Ethan turned toward me. It means none of us knew. So it didn't happen? It means you make decisions alone and then present them as facts. It's my decision. It affects everyone. You moving out of your house affects Leah. Have you asked her to vote? Leah looked at me, surprised. Ethan's mouth tightened. That's different? Because it's yours? No, because... He stopped. Connor sat back and crossed his arms. Go ahead, explain the difference. I'm not doing this with you. You brought a list. I brought possible solutions. To your problem, to all of it. What's all of it? Ethan looked around the kitchen at the cleared counters, the missing valance, the bare doorway where the brass hook had been before Denise marked it. This, he said, everything disappearing while everybody acts like it's normal. The anger in his voice broke on the last word. Nobody answered. Ethan sat down again, but the fight had left his posture. He rubbed one thumb along the edge of the legal pad. I know it's Dad's house, he said. I know that. Dad again, softer now. I just don't understand why it has to happen right now. Leah stared at him. Because right now is when you might need it? No. Then when would be a good time? He looked at her, and for a second I saw something frightened beneath all the organization. When things are settled, he said. Leah laughed once. Things don't settle because a building waits for you. He pushed his plate away. Connor reached across the table and took one of the dumplings from Ethan's container. It was such an ordinary theft that Ethan almost smiled. You could have asked, he said. You had 6. I ordered them. For Dad's house. Connor bit into the dumpling. Family use, shared expenses. This time Ethan did smile, though he tried not to. The pressure in the room loosened enough for everyone to breathe. I looked at Leah. Do you want him gone? Ethan's head snapped toward me. Dad, I asked her. Leah did not answer immediately. She folded her napkin, unfolded it, then folded it again. I want him present, she said. That's not the same as wanting him in the house. Ethan looked down. I knew that sentence. Marlene could have said it to me years before she left. Maybe she had, in different words. And I had answered by cleaning the gutters. Connor pushed the legal pad toward me. What do you think? I think number 2 would make me a landlord, which I don't want. Number 4 means spending money to make strangers like cabinets I've used for 30 years. Number 5 has nothing to do with me. And number 3? Ethan asked. Family use means I keep living here while everyone else decides when the house is useful. That isn't fair, he said. Then define it. We'd help with maintenance. I don't need help with maintenance. We'd pay our share. Your share of what? He had no answer ready. Connor leaned forward. What if we actually came here? For what? Dinner? Sundays? Whatever. You can come to dinner wherever I live. It wouldn't be the same. No, I said, it wouldn't. He looked hurt, though I had only agreed with him. Leah gathered the empty containers. I stood to help, but she shook her head. I need something to do. Ethan watched her carry food to the counter. We don't have to decide tonight, he said. You don't have to decide at all, I replied. He closed the legal pad. My phone buzzed near the sink. Denise had sent a message. Tomorrow's couple wants a second look. Saturday? They're serious. I read it, then locked the screen. Connor saw my face. What? Nothing yet? You got an offer? No? Then what? I slipped the phone into my pocket. A second showing. Ethan's hand settled on the legal pad. When? Saturday. That's before the dinner. Yes. He looked toward Leah, but she was scraping rice into the trash. Can you move it? He asked. I thought of Denise telling me to make sure any change came from my mind. I thought of Connor's hand on the painted wall, Ethan's old shoes, Leah sitting in a car because my house had become the exit in an argument I knew nothing about. No, I said. Ethan looked as if I had chosen strangers over him. Maybe that was the first moment he understood the strangers were not asking me to wait. Ethan left the legal pad on the table. He noticed halfway to the door, came back for it, then stood with it against his chest while Leah waited on the porch. I'll call you tomorrow, he said. About what? He glanced toward Leah. I don't know. That'll be a short call. Dad, could you not do that right now? Do what? He shook his head and left. Leah said goodnight to me without turning around. Ethan followed her to the SUV. Neither spoke before the doors closed. Connor stayed behind to help put the food away, although helping mostly involved eating one more dumpling over the sink. You were rough on him, he said. He came here with a plan to move into my house. He didn't say he was moving in. He put it in writing. He wrote one of us. You seemed surprised. I was. So the other one was him. Connor licked sauce from his thumb. It could have been hypothetical. Your brother does not make hypothetical lists. That's true. He fitted the lid onto the curry container and pressed each corner twice. Would you let him, he asked, move in? If things with Leah get bad, they're already bad. You know what I mean. I took the container from him and put it in the refrigerator. If Ethan needs help, I'll help him. That isn't an answer. It's the answer I have. Connor leaned against the counter. You used that one on me yesterday? I have a limited supply. He might really need this place. And then what? Then he stays here. For a month? A year? Until Leah changes her mind? Until he does? I don't know. Neither does he. Connor looked toward the front of the house. Through the living room windows, we could see the blue and white sign lit by the street lamp. Maybe it's easier to know there's somewhere to come back to, he said. You have somewhere. An apartment isn't the same. Why? He opened his mouth, then closed it. I waited. Because it isn't, he said. That answer runs in the family. He gave me a tired smile and took the trash outside. After he left, I washed the paintbrushes in the utility sink and put the drill back in its case. Connor had left a faint shoe print on the newly painted porch board. I could have wiped it off before the paint dried. I didn't. Ethan called at 8:06 the next morning. I'm sorry about last night, he said. I sat on the edge of my bed, one sock on and one in my hand. Which part? The whole thing. That covers a lot. I shouldn't have brought Leah into it. She was already in it. You know what I mean? I do. There was noise behind him, a door closing, then the muffled sound of traffic. Are you driving? I'm getting coffee. For Leah? He paused. For everyone. Who's everyone? You, if you want one. You're coming here? I thought we could get the yard cleaned up before the showing. The yard is clean. The hedge by the garage needs trimming. It always looks like that. Exactly. I looked at the time. The showing isn't until 11. I'll be there at 9. I can trim a hedge. I know, Dad. The word was gentler this time, and that made it harder to refuse. All right, I said. He arrived with coffee, breakfast sandwiches, a pair of work gloves, and no Leah. She wanted to sleep, he said before I asked. Did she? Yes. He put the coffee on my kitchen counter. Connor coming? I didn't invite him. Ethan nodded as if that pleased him. Connor arrived 20 minutes later, carrying hedge clippers. I brought the good ones, he announced. Ethan stared at him. Why are you here? Mom told me you were coming. How did Mom know? She called Leah. Ethan's expression tightened. Why is Mom calling Leah? Connor looked at me. You want the short version? Yes. Because Mom. Ethan took his coffee outside. The hedge did not need 3 men. It barely needed 1. Ethan clipped the top, while Connor argued that it should be rounded. I held the extension cord and watched them turn a healthy shrub into a geometric dispute. You're cutting too much, Connor said. You said rounded. I said soften the corners. It's a bush, not a sofa. You've made it look like a refrigerator. Ethan stepped back. The hedge did look like a refrigerator. It'll grow, I said. Neither found that comforting. We swept the walkway, pulled weeds from the side bed, and moved 2 bags of mulch from one end of the garage to the other because Ethan thought buyers would notice them. At 10:30, Denise arrived and stopped beside the hedge. What happened there? Family project, I said. It looks frightened. Give it time. She checked the rooms, opened blinds, turned on lamps, and placed a bowl of lemons on the kitchen counter. Are those real? Connor asked. No, she said. He picked one up, squeezed it, and looked offended. Why would you have fake lemons? Because real ones rot. That's dishonest. They're not included in the sale. Denise pointed toward the door. All 3 of you need to leave. We're going, I said. Far enough that nobody can see you staring through a window. Ethan picked up his coffee. We're not staring. You trimmed a hedge for 2 hours. You're invested. We walked to the diner on the corner, the same place where I sometimes ate breakfast on Sundays. The hostess knew me well enough not to remove extra menus with sympathy. Company today, she said. My sons. She smiled at them. I've heard nothing about either of you. Connor looked at me. Nothing? She's new. I've worked here 4 years, the hostess said. Ethan slid into a booth. I sat across from him, and Connor sat beside me. The 3 of us ordered coffee even though we had each already had too much. For a while, we discussed the Browns, road construction, and whether fake lemons counted as lying. Connor said yes. Ethan said only if they were labeled organic. Then Ethan asked, where would you actually go? I stirred sugar into my cup. I'm looking at an apartment Monday. Both of them stopped. What apartment? Connor asked. One downtown? Which downtown? Ethan said. The one 12 minutes from here. You already found a place? I found a listing. I'm looking at it. What's the address? I don't know it by heart. Send it to me. Why? So I can look it up. I can look it up. I know, but I know what to check. Like the joists? Connor smiled into his coffee. Ethan ignored him. How much is it? Less than a house. That isn't helpful. It wasn't intended as financial disclosure. The waitress brought our food. Connor had ordered pancakes and immediately poured syrup over all three. Ethan took eggs and dry toast, which was how he ate when he was worried. What do you want in an apartment? Connor asked. A door. Dad. An elevator would be nice. Grocery store nearby. A room big enough for a table. For your dining table? No. Connor looked down at his pancakes. The dining table goes with the house? He asked. I haven't decided. Mom's going to want it. Your mother had 8 years to want it. She'll say there wasn't room in the condo. There was room for Cal's bar cabinet. Ethan tore his toast in half. Can we not make this about Cal? I mentioned furniture. You always mention furniture when you mean Cal. Connor set down his fork. Why did you leave my reception? The diner continued around us. Cups clinked. A blender started behind the counter. Someone near the door laughed too loudly. Ethan looked from Connor to me. What? He asked me the other day, I said. And you didn't answer? I said I shouldn't have left. That isn't an answer, both brothers said. They looked at each other. I took a drink of coffee that had gone lukewarm. Cal was giving a family toast, I said. Connor's face closed slightly. So I didn't want to hear it. He said 2 minutes of nice things. I know. You weren't there. I read what he wrote later. How? Your mother left a copy on the kitchen counter when she picked up the serving trays. Neither son spoke. I continued because stopping would have been worse. He wrote that he was proud to welcome Leah into the family and proud of the men you and Ethan had become. Everybody was supposed to raise a glass. I saw his name on the program, and I decided I couldn't sit there while people treated him like the man who got you there. Connor stared at me. He didn't say that. I know that now. You thought he was going to claim he raised us? I thought a lot of things. So you left. Yes. Because you were jealous of a toast. I was hurt. At my wedding. Yes. He looked toward the window. Ethan's voice was quiet. You could have sat with us. I should have. You could have told us. I should have done that too. Connor pushed his plate away, though one pancake remained. I kept watching the door, he said. Mom said you probably felt sick. I did. That's not funny. I wasn't joking. His eyes shone, but he rubbed one hand across his beard and looked annoyed enough to keep the tears away. You made me think I'd done something, he said. No. You left without saying goodbye. I know. No, you know now because I'm telling you. Back then you knew you wanted to leave. I had no defense that didn't make him carry my pain along with his. You're right, I said. He nodded once, but the admission did not satisfy him. Truth rarely arrives shaped like relief. Ethan looked at the table. That was when Connor started calling you Tom. I remember. I did it because he did. I know. Ethan glanced up. You never said anything. What would I have said? That it hurt. The waitress came by with the coffee pot. None of us wanted more, but I held out my cup anyway. Through the diner window, I saw Denise's car turn onto my street. Connor watched it too. That's her, he said. The showing must be done. Ethan checked his phone. They were there 40 minutes. Maybe they liked the fake lemons, I said. Nobody laughed. We paid and walked back without speaking. A silver sedan sat at the curb in front of my house. A woman and a man stood beside it talking to Denise. Both looked to be around 40. The woman pointed toward the upstairs windows, and Denise nodded. We stopped at the end of the driveway. The couple turned toward us. The man smiled. You must be the owner. I am. He looked past me at Ethan and Connor. And these are? Before I could answer, Ethan said, his sons. Connor added, we grew up here. The woman's smile softened. It feels like a family house. I looked at my sons standing on either side of me. Neither of them called me Dad. Neither needed to. For one foolish second, I wished the couple would hate the bathrooms. The woman laughed. We don't hate the bathrooms. I hadn't realized I'd said it aloud. Her husband looked at her. We don't love them. They're honest, she said. That's a generous word for beige, I replied. Denise gave me a look that reminded me she worked on commission. The couple introduced themselves as Dana and Mark. They had been renting a townhouse nearby and wanted more room for 2 home offices, a dining table, and Mark's collection of records, which Dana described as a structural concern. "We like the backyard," Mark said, "and the porch." All 3 of us looked at the hedge. Dana tilted her head. "Did something happen to that bush?" "Family project," Denise said quickly. Connor coughed into his hand. Mark asked when I wanted to close. Denise stepped between us with the smoothness of someone preventing a pedestrian accident. "Tom is flexible. Your agent can include the preferred date with any offer." "We're talking to her this afternoon," Dana said. Ethan shifted beside me. Dana looked toward the 2nd floor. "Which room was yours?" Connor pointed to one window. "That one." "I had the one on the left," Ethan said. "Better closet," Connor added. "Smaller room. You said it was bigger when you took it." "I was 12. Mark smiled. "Families remember real estate differently." "No," I said. "They remember themselves differently." That ended the pleasant exchange for about 3 seconds. Denise rescued it by discussing the furnace. After Dana and Mark drove away, Ethan turned to her. "Are they making an offer?" "They may. When will you know?" "When they make one." "Are there other interested buyers?" She looked at me before answering. "I discussed that with my client. I'm his son." I gathered. Ethan stood a little straighter. "We're trying to help him evaluate his options. I'm sure Tom will call if he needs help." Connor looked at me, nearly smiling. Ethan did not. Denise waited until my sons had moved toward their cars before speaking quietly. "They're going to make an offer. You know that?" "I know the look." "What look?" "The one people have when they're already placing furniture." I watched Dana's silver sedan turn at the end of the street. "They didn't like the bathrooms. Nobody likes the bathrooms. I like them." "You don't count. It's my house." "Exactly." She tucked the folder under her arm. "You don't have to accept anything. But if an offer comes, I need an answer based on the offer, not on whatever dinner table tribunal is happening tomorrow." Tribunal seems dramatic. So did the hedge. She left. Ethan was waiting beside his SUV. Connor had already gone. He had said he needed some air, which was a strange reason to enter a closed vehicle. "You really think that apartment is what you want?" Ethan asked. "I haven't seen it yet." "You should see more than one." "I probably will. I can send you listings." "So can Denise." "She doesn't know what you need." "Do you?" He put his hands in his pockets. "I know you," he said. The words should have felt good. Instead, they landed like a claim neither of us could prove. "All right," I said. "What do I need?" "A 2nd bedroom." "Why?" "For guests. I don't have guests." "You could." "Who?" He looked toward the road where Connor had disappeared. "Us. You live 20 minutes away, 30 without traffic. Your brother says 32. He drives slow." I waited. Ethan glanced toward the porch. "If things don't work out with Leah, I'm not asking to move in here forever." "You haven't asked at all." "I know." "Then what are you saying?" "I'm saying don't sell this week. For you, for everyone. Everyone keeps sending you to ask. No one sent me. What does Leah want?" His face closed. "She wants me to stop treating a backup plan like a decision." "That sounds reasonable. I don't need you on her side. I'm not on a side. You're always on a side. You just stand far enough away to pretend you aren't." He opened the driver's door. "Sunday," he said. "Can we at least make it through dinner before you decide? If an offer comes, I'll read it." "Dad, I'll read it." He got into the SUV and closed the door. He sat there for a few seconds before starting the engine, both hands resting on the wheel. I almost went to the window. Instead, I stood beside the frightened hedge until he drove away. Marlene arrived at noon on Sunday, though dinner was set for 4. She brought 2 cloth grocery bags, a casserole dish, 3 serving spoons, linen napkins, and the roasting pan she had asked whether I still owned. "I thought you didn't have room for all that in the condo," I said. "Cal reorganized the storage cage, so there was room, there is now." Cal came in carrying the folding table. "I brought it," he said. "I see that. Do you need it?" "No." He looked relieved. "Good. The legs are in the wrong place." I let him put it in the garage. Marlene moved through the kitchen opening drawers and finding fewer things than she expected. "Where's the large wooden spoon?" "Which one?" "The flat one? Gone." "The blue mixing bowl?" Connor took it. "The hand mixer?" "Sold." "To that woman?" "What woman?" "The one who bought the bookcase." "I don't maintain a preferred customer program." She put both hands on the counter. How am I supposed to cook? You could have cooked at home. This is where we're eating. Yes. That was also decided for me. Marlene turned. You agreed. I stopped objecting. That's different. Cal appeared in the doorway. I can go buy a mixer. No, we said together. He raised both hands and backed out. For the next hour, Marlene and I prepared food in the old pattern. She seasoned the roast without measuring. I peeled potatoes because she always left too much skin. We reached for the same drawer at the same time twice, apologized once, and argued over whether the oven ran hot. You never fixed that? She asked. It doesn't run hot. It runs 10 degrees hot. You ran 10 degrees impatient. She smiled before she could prevent it. That doesn't even make sense. It did for a long time. The smile disappeared, but not angrily. She tied an apron around her waist. It was mine, dark blue with a brewery logo across the front. On her, it looked familiar enough to make the kitchen briefly dangerous. Ethan told me about the offer, she said. There is no offer. The possible offer. That's called interest. He said you're looking at apartments. One tomorrow. Have you thought about a condo? Yes, there's a unit in our building. No, you don't even know which one. I know who lives in the building. It has a separate entrance. So does Canada. She cut carrots into thick pieces. You don't have to be hostile. I'm peeling potatoes. You can do both. I put the peeler down. Why do you care where I live? She kept cutting. I don't want you isolated. I'm not isolated. You eat at that diner alone. I know the hostess. That isn't the same as having company. Neither is a condo directory. She slid the carrots into the roasting pan. The boys worry. The boys discovered worry last Tuesday. That isn't fair. Everyone says that when I describe the order of events. She looked toward the living room, where Cal was straightening chairs. They thought you'd always be here, she said. That was convenient. It was comforting. For whom? Her knife rested on the cutting board. For me, too, she said. I didn't expect that. She wiped the blade with a towel. I know I left. I know what that did. But this house was the one place where I could still picture the four of us before everything became complicated. It was complicated then. Not in the pictures. I looked at her. That's what pictures are for, she said. The front door opened. Connor called. Anybody decent? No, I answered. He came in with a bottle of wine and a grocery sack. Behind him was a woman with curly brown hair, large glasses, and a green dress beneath a denim jacket. This is Rachel, he said. Marlene emerged from the kitchen, wiping her hands. You brought Rachel. Rachel hugged her. I was told there would be a summit. It's dinner, Connor said. You shaved twice. I missed a spot. Rachel kissed his cheek. They had been seeing each other for nearly a year, though Connor had resisted calling it anything that could be put on a holiday card. I had met her twice. She worked in medical billing, collected houseplants, and had the useful habit of saying exactly what everyone else was trying to imply. She handed me the grocery sack. Connor said you were making soup. I lied. Good. I brought bread anyway. Ethan and Leah arrived separately. Ethan carried his legal pad, 2 bottles of wine, and the framed Niagara Falls photograph Connor had taken the previous weekend. Leah came 5 minutes later with a pie and no explanation for why they had used 2 cars. Marlene noticed. She noticed everything. Traffic? She asked Leah. Something like that. Cal opened the wine. We sat around the table shortly after 4. The old extension leaf was in place, making room for 7 adults and too many serving dishes. Cal ended up at one corner with a table leg between his knees. I warned you, he told me. For the first 20 minutes, we behaved beautifully. Rachel praised the roast. Leah asked Cal about the condo storage cage. Connor told a story about the fake lemons. Ethan corrected 3 details. Marlene passed potatoes and watched all of us as if trying to memorize the arrangement. I let myself enjoy it. That was my mistake. When the plates were half empty, Ethan reached beneath his chair and brought out the legal pad. Leah put down her fork. Connor looked at Rachel, who whispered, Summit? Ethan ignored them. He set the pad beside his plate and looked at me. Dad, we came up with something. Marlene folded her napkin. Cal shifted his knees around the table leg. I looked at each face in turn. Who's we? I asked. Connor raised both hands. Not me. Ethan turned toward him. We talked about this. We talked about options. This is an option. You said you wanted to propose a pause. You didn't say we came up with something, Marlene intervened. There's no need to argue over wording. Rachel picked up her wine. Wording is carrying a lot of weight tonight. I looked at Ethan. Who's we? He adjusted the legal pad. Mom and I talked. Connor was part of the earlier conversation. I ate noodles during the earlier conversation, Connor said. You contributed. I called your list weird. Ethan's patience thinned. Fine. Mom and I put together a possible arrangement based on things everyone has said. Everyone except me, Leah said. He glanced at her. You know what I'm proposing. I know what you were thinking Thursday. That's not the same. Marlene set her napkin beside her plate. Can we please hear the idea before we tear it apart? Cal lifted his wine glass. That would be traditional. No one acknowledged him. Ethan turned the pad toward me. He had drawn 3 columns beneath the heading 90-day plan. The first was labeled Dad. The second said Ethan. The third said Family. I'm already concerned, I said. Just listen. You delay the sale for 90 days. You led with the part I said no to. Dad. I sat back. You still look at apartments, he continued. If you find one you like, I rent the house from you for 3 months. Maybe 6, depending on what happens. What happens with what? Leah asked. Ethan didn't look at her. With everything. Good, very specific, he continued. I cover utilities, taxes, basic maintenance. Connor contributes toward bigger repairs if something comes up. Connor pointed at himself. I do? We can work out percentages. Did you bring a second legal pad for my percentage? Rachel put a hand over her mouth. Marlene gave her a look. Rachel lowered the hand but not the smile. Ethan tapped the third column. The house remains available for family dinners. Twice a month minimum, Thanksgiving, Christmas, birthdays. We all help keep it up. After 90 days, we reevaluate. What am I evaluating? I asked. Whether you like the apartment, whether selling still makes sense, whether I need to stay longer. So, I move out. You move in, and everybody visits my old house twice a month. You said you wanted an apartment. I said I wanted to look at one. That's why this gives you flexibility. No, Leah said, it gives you flexibility. Ethan finally turned to her. It gives everyone time. Time for you not to decide whether you're in our marriage. This isn't the place. You made your father's dining room the place when you put your escape plan in a column. Marlene reached across the table. Leah, nobody wants you and Ethan to separate. I know. Everyone just wants his room ready. It's not his room, I said. That stopped them. Ethan looked toward the stairs, as if he could see through the ceilings to the newly painted walls. I know, he said. You keep saying that. Then designing plans around it. Marlene folded her hands. Tom, the house is too large for you. You've said so. I said it was larger than I need. Fine, larger than you need. Ethan may need somewhere to stay. Connor wants the family to continue gathering here. You want less responsibility. This addresses all 3 things. It leaves me owning a house I don't want while living somewhere else. Temporarily. Why? So, we don't make an irreversible choice during a crisis. Whose crisis? Marlene looked at Ethan and Leah. Leah's expression hardened. Don't point at us with your face. Cal coughed into his napkin. Marlene ignored him. Families help each other. Then Ethan can stay with you. The room went still. Cal lowered his napkin. Marlene's voice cooled. Our condo has 1 bedroom. It has a sofa. Cal gets up early. I can be quiet, Cal said. Marlene looked at him. He rubbed his mustache. I'm offering. Ethan shook his head. I'm not moving into Mom's condo. But you'll move into my house. That isn't what I'm asking. It's written under your name. Ethan closed the legal pad halfway, then opened it again. I'd be paying. I don't want a tenant. I'm not a tenant. I'm your son. That's precisely why this is a bad plan. Connor leaned forward. What if Ethan doesn't move in? Ethan stared at him. I'm asking, Connor said. What if Dad stays and we actually start using the house as a family place again? Rachel looked at him. Using? You know what I mean. I do. I'm wondering if you do. Connor's face reddened. Coming here, helping, having dinners. Would you do that if the sign came down? Yes. How often did you do it before the sign went up? Marlene said. Rachel. What? He invited me. Connor looked at the table. I could have rescued him. For most of his life, I had rescued my sons from discomfort by giving them a smaller practical problem. Need a ride? Need money for the parking meter? Want me to fix that cabinet hinge? This time, I let the question remain. Connor rubbed his thumb along the stem of his glass. Not enough, he said. Rachel nodded. Okay, I know how it sounds. How does it sound? I asked. Like we only care because you're selling. A little. That isn't all it is. What else is it? He looked around the dining room. The light fixture above us was the same brass one Marlene and I had argued over when we moved in. One bulb was warmer than the others because I had replaced it from a different package. I don't know where we go if this is gone, he said. You come to wherever I am. It won't be this. No. You keep saying that like it doesn't matter. It matters. It's simply true. Marlene touched the edge of the table. This house holds our whole story. No, I said. It holds things we left in it. That's unnecessarily cruel. It's particle board and pencil marks and a fake Christmas tree you didn't want in your condo. I wanted the tree. After I put it near the curb. I never told you to put it near the curb. Neither did I. I put it in a garage for 8 years while everyone assumed I'd keep doing it. Ethan's chair moved back. This is what you wanted, he said. What? You wanted us to panic. You didn't tell anybody because you wanted the sign to do it for you. The accuracy of it irritated me. That's part of it, I said. Marlene stared. Connor looked wounded. Ethan gave a short laugh. There it is. I wanted to see who noticed. We noticed. You noticed the house. We're sitting here, aren't we? Because the house may be sold. Because you're our father. Then where were you the week before? Ethan stood. Leah said his name quietly, but he did not sit. You don't get to act like we abandoned you, he said. You left Connor's wedding. You stopped coming to Mom's Christmas because Cal was there. You never called unless you had a reason. I called. You called to ask if my gutters needed cleaning. They did. That's not talking. I know. The agreement confused him. I looked at Connor, then Ethan. I know, I said again. I made it easy for you to know what I could fix and nearly impossible to know what I felt. That was on me. Marlene looked down at her hands. I left the reception because I was hurt and jealous, I continued. I told myself leaving quietly was better than making a scene. It wasn't better for Connor. It was just easier for me. Connor did not move. I should have called more, I said. I should have asked why you started using my name instead of pretending it didn't matter. I should have told both of you it hurt every single time. Ethan's anger faltered. I took a breath. But owning that doesn't mean I owe you this house. His face closed again. Nobody said you owe us, he said. Your plan has my name in the first column. It's a compromise. A compromise is when two people give something up. In this plan, I give up selling, give up living here, and keep the responsibility. You get a place to land, Connor gets his family dining room. Your mother gets her photographs to stay true. And what do you get? Cal asked. Everyone turned toward him. It was the first useful question anyone had asked all evening. I get to wait, I said. Cal nodded slowly. Marlene's voice sharpened. You get your sons back. The sentence landed in the middle of the table. Connor looked at her. Ethan looked at me. I could hear the refrigerator running in the kitchen. Is that what this is? I asked. I keep the house and they keep calling me Dad. No one said that, Connor whispered. You started the day the sign went up. His eyes dropped. Ethan shut the legal pad. That's low. It's true. I called because I was scared. Of losing me? Yes. Or losing the room upstairs. He pushed his chair back so hard it struck the wall. Why does it have to be one or the other? It doesn't. Then stop acting like everything we feel is fake because it isn't pure enough for you. I stood too, though I did it slowly. I don't think it's fake. I think it's mixed. So is what I feel. I'm glad you're here. I've enjoyed more of this week than I want to admit. But I'm not going to spend the rest of my life maintaining a building so all of you can feel like nothing changed. Marlene's face tightened. What are you saying? I'm saying the sale continues. Ethan stared at me. We haven't even finished talking. I have. You always do this. Do what? You decide when everyone else is done. Tonight, yes. His mouth twisted. Fine, Tom. The name was quiet, almost tossed away. It hurt more than if he had shouted it. Connor flinched. Leah closed her eyes. Even Marlene looked at Ethan. He grabbed the legal pad and walked toward the front door. Leah remained seated. Ethan, she called. He did not stop. The door slammed hard enough to rattle the brass hook I had decided not to remove. No one spoke for several seconds. Then Connor looked at me. "Dad," he said, and this time the word had no polish on it. "Is there anything we can do?" I looked at my younger son across a table crowded with cooling food. "Yes." He waited. "You can change our relationship," I said. "You can't change my decision." Connor swallowed. Beside him, Rachel reached for his hand. Marlene stood and began stacking plates because anger had always made her clean. Cal removed his knees from around the table leg. Leah stared at the closed front door. No one asked what was for dessert. The pie sat unopened on the counter. Leah had brought apple. I could see the sugar crust through the clear plastic lid. Marlene stacked the dinner plates on top of one another, potatoes and carrots and pieces of roast all mixed together, which was not how she normally cleared a table. "Leave those," I said. "I'm helping. You're angry. I can do two things." Cal began gathering wine glasses. "You can leave those too," I told him. He set one down immediately. "Happy to." Marlene carried the plates into the kitchen. A fork slid off the stack and struck the floor. Nobody moved for it. Leah picked up her car keys. "I should find Ethan. Do you know where he went?" Connor asked. "No." "Try our place," Marlene said. "He might go there." Leah gave her a weary look. "Why would he go to your condo? He knows he can. He also knows I'll look there. That may be the point." Leah slipped her purse over her shoulder. Before leaving, she stopped beside my chair. "You didn't cause what's happening between us," she said. "I didn't think I did. I know. Ethan might. He doesn't. You give him a lot of credit when he isn't in the room. I give everyone more credit when they leave." That produced a small smile. She touched my shoulder. "He really was scared about the house." "I know. He's also using it. I know that too." She nodded, satisfied that I could hold both facts, then went after him. Marlene returned from the kitchen. "You didn't have to do that in front of everyone." "Which part?" "Corner Ethan. He brought a diagram. He came with a solution. To his problem, to a family problem." I picked the fork up from the floor and put it on the stack. "You told me I could get my sons back if I kept the house. I didn't mean it as a transaction. You said it like one. I said it badly. That seems to be going around." She folded her arms. "You were waiting to make that speech. No, you had every line ready. I've lived with the lines a long time. Then you should have said them before tonight." I looked at her. "When?" "Any time." "At Connor's wedding?" She stiffened. "You told him I probably felt sick," I said. "You looked sick. You knew why I left. I knew you were upset. You knew about the toast. I didn't know you'd seen the program. You left his name printed under Family Toast. It was Connor's program. I wasn't hiding it. No. You just expected me to sit there and be gracious. I expected you to stay for your son." The answer arrived clean and hard. I had nothing to put against it. "You were wrong about a lot of things," she said. "You weren't wrong to be hurt, but you took that hurt and handed it to Connor without telling him what it was." "I know. You keep saying you know, as if that finishes it. It doesn't." "Good." Cal stood near the dining room doorway holding the unopened bottle of wine Ethan had brought. "Do we take this?" he asked. Marlene closed her eyes. "Cal, I'm asking because one bottle is ours and one is Ethan's. Leave both." "All right." He put the bottle down. I expected him to follow Marlene when she reached for her purse. Instead, he stayed where he was. "For what it's worth," he said, "I don't think Tom cornered Ethan." Marlene turned slowly. Cal adjusted his glasses. "Ethan came with a plan that involved moving into this house. Tom said no." "Thank you," I said. "I'm not taking your side. You were doing well." He ignored me. "I think everybody came here expecting Tom to negotiate because he usually does whatever makes things easier." Marlene stared at him. "You helped carry the folding table. You told me to." "That is not the point. I know. I'm saying I thought this was dinner." Rachel made a choking sound and covered it with a cough. Cal continued. "If Ethan needs somewhere to stay, our sofa folds out. It's not comfortable, but neither is marriage." "Cal," Marlene said again. "What?" "Mine wasn't." She looked offended for both his former wife and herself. He picked up his jacket. "I'm going to the car." He paused beside me. "Roast was good. Marlene cooked it." "I know." After he left, Marlene stood in the entryway with her purse in one hand. "He's impossible when he tries to be fair," she said. "He was fair? Don't encourage him." She looked toward Connor. "Call your brother. I will, tonight. I said I will." She turned back to me. Some of the anger had drained from her face, leaving something older. "Do you want the table?" I asked. "What?" "The dining table. Connor said you might." Her eyes moved across the room to it. "No," she said. "I want to remember it here. That isn't an available choice." "I know." She left the roasting pan. Rachel and Connor stayed to clean. Rachel packed leftovers into containers while Connor washed dishes. He wore my brewery apron over his shirt, and the strings barely reached around his waist. "You're doing that wrong," I said. "I'm washing a plate. You're using too much soap." "Go sit down. It's my kitchen. And your soap. I'll reimburse you." Rachel slid the untouched pie toward me. "Would opening this constitute a permanent decision? Only if we finish it. We can show restraint." The three of us ate pie at the kitchen table. Connor took one bite, then another, as if surprised it had survived the evening. Rachel asked me about the apartment. I told her it was on the third floor of a converted factory building near a bookstore and a grocery store. The photographs showed exposed brick, large windows, and a kitchen island too narrow for anything except criticizing. "Sounds nice," she said. "It sounds expensive," Connor said. "It isn't." "How many bedrooms?" "One." He looked at me. "One bedroom is enough," I said. "For you." "That's who would live there." Rachel ate a piece of crust. "They make hotels." Connor pointed his fork at her. "You're not helping. I'm helping Tom." She carried her plate to the sink and kissed Connor's cheek. "I'm going home. You two should talk without an audience pretending not to listen." "You don't have to go," he said. "I know." She hugged me, thanked me for dinner she had barely eaten, and left. Connor washed the pie plates more slowly than necessary. "Did you mean it?" he asked. "What? That we can change the relationship?" "Yes." "How?" "I don't know." He turned off the faucet. "That's convenient. It's honest." He dried his hands on the apron and sat across from me. "I don't know how to act like none of this happened. I'm not asking you to. You want me to just start calling all the time?" "I want you to call when you want to talk. What if I don't have anything to say? Then don't call." That sounds exactly like before. "Before, you called when you needed a drill. I called other times." "Sometimes." He leaned back. "You make it hard to know when you want people around." "That's true, so tell me. I wanted you around." "When?" "Most of the time." His face tightened. "You could have said that." "Yes." "You really have one answer tonight. It's an important answer." He looked down at the table. "I was cruel with the name," he said. "I didn't pretend not to understand. I knew it bothered you. That was why I kept doing it. Thank you for telling me. That's all? What should I say? That I was justified. Or that I wasn't. Something. You were hurt. You used something that hurt me back. Were you angry?" "Yes." "You never looked angry." "I worked on it." "That wasn't always helpful." "No." His eyes moved toward the empty wall where the bookcase had stood. "I did keep watching the door," he said, "at the reception. I'm sorry. I don't mean once. Every time it opened. I felt the apology rise with explanations attached. Cal's name on the program, Marlene laughing near the bar, the empty chair between Ethan and me, all the things that had made my leaving understandable to me. I let them go. "I'm sorry I made you do that," I said. Connor nodded. He did not forgive me. He also did not look away. That was enough for one night. The apartment had one bad window and a beautiful view. The building manager showed it to me Monday afternoon. The old factory bricks were uneven, the elevator made a grinding sound between floors, and the bedroom closet would have required me to own half as many shirts. From the living room, I could see the courthouse clock, the roofs of 3 restaurants, and a strip of river beyond the parking garage. The dining area was barely an area. It was a square of floor between the kitchen and the windows. "My table won't fit," I said. The manager smiled. "People usually use a round one. I don't own a round one. There's a furniture store 2 blocks away." I stood in the empty square and pictured a table that had no history. No scratches from Ethan's fork. No pale mark from the hot casserole Marlene set down without a trivet. No loose spindle on Connor's usual chair. The thought frightened me. It also felt clean. I filled out an application. Denise called while I was still in the parking lot. "They offered," she said. I sat in my car without starting it. "How much?" she told me. It was below asking, but close enough to be serious. They wanted a standard inspection, a quick closing, and the dining table if I was willing to leave it. I laughed. What? Denise asked. Nothing. You don't have to include the table. They can have it. You're sure? No. That's different. I know. She gave me the rest of the terms. I listened, asked questions, and told her to send everything over. She expected me to counter. I did, though only on price. Dana and Mark responded within the hour. By 6, we had an agreement. I called Connor before I signed. He was quiet when I told him. Is it what you want? He asked. Yes. Then, okay. You don't have to say okay. I'm trying something new. I smiled despite myself. Thank you, I said. Do they want the table? How did you know? Everybody wants that table after they find out they can't have the house. I promised to call him the next day. Then I called Ethan. He didn't answer. I waited 5 minutes and tried again. Voicemail. Ethan, it's me. I received an offer. I'm accepting it tonight. I wanted you to hear that from me before the listing changes. Call when you're ready. I nearly said, love you. I nearly said, Dad. Instead, I said, good night. Then I signed. At 9:43, Ethan sent one message. Hope it was worth it, Tom. I read it until the screen went dark. For the first time since the sign went up, he had used my name, and I did not wonder what it meant. I did not answer. By morning, the message looked smaller. The word Tom still hurt, but it no longer carried the power it had at the wedding or at dinner. Ethan had wanted it to reverse something. It hadn't. The inspection found a loose toilet, 2 aging outlets, and evidence that a raccoon had considered the attic before changing its mind. Dana and Mark asked me to repair the toilet and outlets. They accepted the raccoon's decision. Connor came over the evening. I replaced the outlets. You're not supposed to do electrical work alone, he said from the doorway. I've been doing it since before you were born. That doesn't make it safer. It makes it statistically encouraging. He put down a paper sack that smelled like cheeseburgers and watched me finish. When I turned the breaker back on, the lamp beside him lit. There, I said. Life continues. I brought a tester. Of course you did. He checked the outlet anyway. We ate on the floor in the living room because the dining table had been cleared and covered with a moving blanket. Connor folded his wrapper into a square and placed it inside the paper sack. Ethan still isn't answering me, he said. He sent me a message. What did it say? I'm not sharing it. That bad? Not original. Connor nodded. He and Leah are still at the house, he said. Their house? Yes, Dad, their house. I was clarifying. He stayed at a hotel for 2 nights. Then he went home. How do you know? Rachel talked to Leah. That sounds efficient. Leah says they're trying to figure things out. That sounds less efficient. He looked toward the empty place where the bookcase had been. Should I keep calling him? Do you want to? He's my brother. That isn't an answer. Connor pointed his French fry at me. You've become very pleased with that line. It works. I want him to know I'm here. I don't want to chase him until he decides being angry is a full-time job. Then tell him that once. And then let him decide what to do with it. Connor ate the French fry. Is that what you're doing? Yes. You could call him again. I could. You won't? Not today. He studied me. This boundaries thing is going to make you annoying, isn't it? It already has. He smiled. The apartment application was approved. I signed a lease beginning the week before closing, which gave me 7 days to move without stacking every possession in a truck at once. The building manager handed me 2 keys, a parking tag, and a packet explaining why I was not allowed to grill on the fire escape. I bought a round table. It was 42 inches across, walnut-colored, and new enough that the salesman apologized for a tiny scratch beneath the edge. I told him I would need more visible damage before it felt usable. The old dining table stayed with the house. Marlene learned about that from Connor and arrived the following afternoon with 6 empty boxes. You're giving it to strangers? They asked for it. So did I. No, you said you didn't want it. I said I wanted to remember it here. It will be here. With strangers. They have names. That doesn't improve it. She opened one of the boxes and began packing casserole dishes from the kitchen cabinet. I took the first dish back out. Those aren't going. You don't have room. I have cabinets. How many? I didn't count. You rented an apartment without counting the cabinets. I looked at them. She wrapped the dish in newspaper. Your system has changed very little, I said. My system kept things from breaking. Your system required 40 boxes. and yours involves throwing away curtains without asking. She packed the dish again. I let her. We worked for an hour with only minor hostilities. Marlene took the roasting pan she had left after dinner and the blue mixing bowl Connor had apparently returned without telling either of us. She claimed 2 serving platters. I claimed 1. We split a set of 8 wine glasses into 4 and 4, though I had no memory of buying them. At the back of a drawer, she found an old metal measuring spoon bent nearly flat. "This was your mother's," she said. "No, it wasn't." "Yes, it was. My mother used plastic spoons with blue handles." Marlene examined it. "Then whose was this?" "Probably Value City." She laughed. "You've ruined all our heirlooms. They were affordable." She put the spoon in my box anyway. When the kitchen was mostly packed, she sat at the dining table and ran her palm over a pale ring near the center. "Christmas ham," she said. "Hot casserole." "Which one?" "Broccoli." "You hated that casserole. I hated the smell." "You ate 3 servings." "I was married." She smiled. Then her fingers found a long scratch near the edge. "Ethan did this with a fork." "Connor?" "Ethan." Connor was pretending the table was a racetrack. That was the coffee table. She looked up at me. "We don't remember the same family." "No. I used to think one of us had to be wrong. Maybe both of us are." "That sounds exhausting." It was. Her hand remained on the table. "Did you really feel like we left you here to keep everything?" she asked. "Sometimes. Why didn't you say so?" "I thought it was obvious." She shook her head. "Nothing about you was obvious, Tom. You just acted like it should be." I sat across from her. I thought being dependable was enough. It was useful. The words sat between us. She realized what she had said and looked sorry, but I held up a hand. "That's fair. No, it isn't all you were. It's what I made easiest to see." She looked toward the packed kitchen. "Cal said something like that after we got home." "Cal talks about me?" "Only when I make him. That explains why he always looks tired." She smiled. Then she said, "I am sorry about the wedding." I waited. I wanted the day to feel normal, she continued. "I put Cal on the program because he was part of my life, and I didn't want him sitting there like an embarrassment. I knew it would hurt you. I told myself you'd manage. I usually did." "Yes." It was not an apology for leaving me or loving Cal. I did not need one for those things anymore. It was an apology for mistaking my silence for unlimited capacity. "I should have stayed," I said. "You should have." We packed the rest of the dishes. Cal came Saturday with a pickup and an organized collection of moving blankets. He had labeled each one with his initials in black marker. "You think people steal blankets?" I asked. "I think people forget whose blankets they have. That sounds personal." My brother has 4. Connor and Rachel arrived in a rented box truck. Rachel brought bagels and a packet of colored stickers. Red meant apartment, blue meant donation, yellow meant Tom must decide, a category that spread rapidly because Rachel had observed me for more than 10 minutes. Cal and I carried my workbench drawers into the truck. The bench itself would not fit in the apartment, so Connor had agreed to take it if he could find room in his building's storage cage. "You know the storage rules?" I asked. I read them. "Voluntarily?" "Rachel made me." Rachel called from inside the garage. "I can hear you." "Good," Connor replied. The workbench drawers were heavier than they looked. Cal and I set one down on the tailgate. "You don't have to do this," I said. "I know. Marlene made you?" She strongly described the benefits. "That sounds more accurate." He checked the moving blanket beneath the drawer. After a moment, he said, "I shouldn't have given that toast." I looked at him. He kept his eyes on the truck bed, not the toast itself. I should have changed how it was listed. "I didn't know it said family toast until that morning. It wasn't your fault I left." "I know. You sound confident." "I've had 8 years to think about it." "So have I." He nodded. "I was nervous," he said. "I wanted Connor to know I was glad to be there. I wanted Ethan and Leah to know I cared about them. I probably overdid it. You said you were proud of the men they'd become. I was. You weren't there when they became them." "No." The answer came without defense. He adjusted one corner of the blanket. "I'm not their father," he said. "I never thought I was. I know that now." He looked at me. "Did you think I did?" "I thought everybody did." That must have been lonely. It was an irritatingly decent thing to say. "Help me lift," I replied. He did. Ethan did not come to the move. Connor texted him the time and received no answer. Marlene said Ethan had work. Leah did not contact any of us. I told myself his absence made the day easier. There were fewer opinions about how to secure the dresser, no legal pad, no one questioning whether the old sofa could fit through the apartment stairwell, because I had sold the sofa to a man in Parma who arrived with rope but no knowledge of knots. The house emptied one room at a time. In Connor's old room, he stood behind the door where the height marks had been. "You really didn't take a picture?" he asked. "No. You take pictures of model numbers before buying furnace filters." "I didn't think. Mom says you were trying to make a point. Your mother says many things. Were you?" I looked at the gray wall. "No, I was careless." He seemed surprised. "I wish I'd taken one," I said. "I'm sorry." Connor touched the wall once, then walked out. On the porch, his shoe print remained faintly visible in the paint. He noticed it while we carried the last box. "You left that?" "It was already dry." "No, it wasn't. I couldn't find a rag." "You own 40 rags. 39. I donated one." He grinned and set his end of the box down. By evening, the apartment contained most of my life, in badly labeled cardboard. Rachel had placed the round table near the windows and arranged 4 chairs around it. Cal built a lamp while pretending not to read the instructions. Connor filled the refrigerator with beer, mustard, and 6 containers of leftovers from a restaurant downstairs. Marlene stood in the kitchen, counting cabinets. "You have 9, she announced. "I can finally sleep." She put the bent measuring spoon in the top drawer. When everyone left, the apartment became quiet in a new way. The house had creaked after company. The apartment hummed. Air moved through vents. Pipes knocked somewhere behind the brick. Traffic passed below the windows. I sat at the round table and looked at the empty chair across from me. My phone rang. "Ethan," I answered before the second ring. "Hello?" He was quiet long enough that I checked the screen to make sure the call had connected. Then he said, "I drove by the house." "All right. The sign says pending." "Yes." "So you moved?" "Most of it." Another pause. "I didn't know it was today," he said. "Connor texted you. I saw it late." I waited. He exhaled. "Can we meet?" "Yes." "Not at the house. I no longer live there." The words seemed to surprise both of us. "Tomorrow?" he asked. "At the diner. 10. "All right." He nearly hung up. I heard the movement of the phone, then his voice returned. "Dad?" The word was rough and accidental. "Yes?" I don't know what to say yet. I looked around the apartment, at the new table, the stacked boxes, the window that did not quite close. "Come anyway," I said. Ethan arrived at 10:22. He wore jeans, a navy sweater, and the expression of a man entering a room where someone had already read his test results. He saw me in the booth by the window and stopped beside the hostess stand. The hostess pointed. "Your father's over there." Ethan looked at me. I looked at my menu. He sat across from me and picked up the second menu without opening it. "You come here a lot? Enough to receive mail? You always sit in this booth?" "No." He nodded. The waitress brought coffee and called me honey. Ethan watched her leave. Does she know your name?" "Probably. You know hers?" "Linda? Is that her name?" "I think so." He nearly smiled. "You've been coming here for years, and you think her name is Linda. She doesn't wear a tag. It's embroidered on her apron." I looked toward the counter. "Marjorie." "Well," I said, "that explains why she ignores me when I say Linda." Ethan laughed once, quietly. It was the first uncomplicated sound I had heard from him in weeks. Marjorie returned and took our orders. He asked for eggs and dry toast. I ordered the same thing because I did not want him deciding my pancakes meant something. When she left, silence settled into the booth. Ethan folded and unfolded the paper wrapper from his silverware. "I'm sorry about the message," he said. "All right, that's it?" "What do you want?" "I don't know. You mentioned that." He put the wrapper down. "I wanted you to be angry." "I was." "You didn't answer." "I didn't have anything useful to say." "Since when does that stop you?" "New apartment, new policies." He looked out the window. "I drove by twice," he said. "The house?" "Yes." "Why?" "I wanted to see if the truck was there." "It was. I saw it the second time." I waited. He traced one finger through a drop of water on the table. "I could have come," he said. "Yes." I told myself if you really wanted me there, you'd call. I did call. You called about the offer. Connor sent you the moving information. He isn't you. No. His finger stopped moving. I was waiting for you to ask me personally, he said, and I was waiting to see if you'd come without being asked. That sounds healthy. No, it sounds like us. He looked at me then. The coffee between us smelled burned. Somewhere near the kitchen, dishes clattered into a plastic tub. I don't want to keep doing that, he said. Neither do I. Our food arrived before either of us could ruin the moment. Marjorie placed the plates down and asked if we needed ketchup. No, we said together. She looked at us. Family resemblance. When she left, Ethan buttered dry toast. You know butter makes that less dry, I said. I like the toast dry, I like butter. Separately, apparently. He took a bite, chewed, and stared at his plate. Leah and I are not separating, he said. All right, that isn't the same as saying we're fine. I didn't assume it was. We're talking to someone, a lawyer, a counselor. I picked up my coffee, then set it down without drinking. How do you feel about that? He looked surprised. You're asking? I'm practicing. It's uncomfortable. That wasn't my question. He gave me a reluctant smile. I don't know. Hopeful, I guess. Angry, embarrassed. At Leah, at myself. At her sometimes. She says I keep trying to manage our marriage like a project at work. Milestones, problems, corrective actions. The legal pad may have been a clue. She mentioned the legal pad. I like her. She likes you. Good. That's part of what annoys me. I ate some eggs. He pushed his toast through the butter that had melted on his plate. She said I was treating the house like an emergency exit, he continued. Not because I really wanted to leave, but because knowing I could leave meant I didn't have to decide to stay. That sounds expensive for me. It was. He looked up. I knew you weren't going to make me pay real rent, he said. I knew you'd tell me to get back on my feet, even if I was the one who walked off them. I might have. You would have. Yes? I was using that. Yes. He winced. I had spent years softening truths before handing them to my sons. It had not made the truths kinder. It had only made them easier to ignore. I also hated the idea of strangers living there, Ethan said. Both things were true. I know. When I saw the listing, I thought about the room, the yard, the table, all of it. But I thought about you too. I waited. He wiped his mouth with a napkin and folded it into a narrow strip. It felt like you were dying without dying. The sentence struck somewhere beneath my ribs. I know that sounds dramatic. It does. Connor said something similar. He said disappearing. We talked after the dinner. Then he ignored my advice. What advice? To tell you once he was there and let you decide. He told me once. And I didn't answer. Then he followed it exactly. Ethan looked annoyed, which was better than looking wounded. He tore another piece of toast. The house was how I knew where you were, he said. Even when I didn't call, even when I didn't come, I could picture you there. In the chair beneath the sheet. What? Nothing. I knew the number. I knew the route. I knew which door would be unlocked. That door wasn't always unlocked. You kept a key under the flower pot. I moved it. When? After you used it without telling me. I was getting the ladder. You left the garage open. He smiled briefly, then it faded. I think I treated knowing where you were like knowing you, he said. I looked out at the cars passing on the street. That goes both ways, I said. What does? I knew your address. I knew your furnace filter size. I knew your anniversary. I didn't know you were sleeping in the guest room. You didn't ask. No, you didn't know to ask. Also true. He drank his coffee. Were you really that lonely? He asked. I could have made a joke. The word arrived already formed, something about Marjorie and her embroidery. I did not use it. Yes. Ethan's eyes lowered. I had people, I said, neighbors, men I'd worked with. Your mother still called when the garbage disposal made a noise Cal didn't like. Cal can't fix anything. He can label a moving blanket. Ethan laughed. I wasn't alone every minute, I continued, but I kept the house ready for all of you. I told myself that meant I had a family life. Mostly it meant I had empty rooms. I'm sorry. So am I. He studied my face. Why are you sorry? Because part of me wanted the sign to hurt you. I could have told you I was selling. I wanted to see how fast you'd come. That's messed up. Yes, it worked. Yes. He sat back. Were you ever going to call us Dad's sons again if we didn't? The question was strange enough that I needed a second. You mean, was I going to ask you to call me Dad? Yeah. No. Why? I didn't want the word if I had to request it. So you let it hurt for 6 years. That appears to be what happened. He shook his head. Connor and I thought you didn't care. I cared. We thought calling you Tom didn't bother you because you never reacted. It bothered me every time. Then why didn't you say anything? I thought you knew. He laughed without humor. Nothing about you is obvious. Your mother said that. I hate when she's right. You'll have a difficult life. We finished eating. When the check came, Ethan reached for it. I asked you here, he said. I come here anyway. I'm paying. I let him. Outside, we stood beside our cars. The air had turned colder, sharp enough that I could smell wood smoke from somewhere beyond the parking lot. You want to see the apartment? I asked. Do you want me to? Yes. He nodded. That was the first time either of us had asked and answered cleanly. At the apartment, Ethan inspected the bad window before taking off his coat. This doesn't latch. I noticed. You need to tell the building manager. I did. When? Yesterday. What did he say? He'll send someone. When? You've been here 4 minutes. He pushed the window down, tested the latch, then turned toward the room. The boxes had multiplied overnight, though I knew that was impossible. Marlene had labeled several in thick black marker, kitchen, books, Tom's misc, which could have applied to the entire apartment. Ethan walked to the round table and put one hand on it. This is small. It's round. It can be both. I have 4 chairs. What if more than 4 people come? Then one of them will stand. He looked toward the bedroom doorway. Only one? One is an excellent number of bedrooms for one person. He opened a box marked Photos. On top was a framed picture of Ethan and Connor standing on the old porch as adults, taken the Thanksgivings before Marlene left. Ethan wore a sweater he had complained was too warm. Connor held a beer. I was not in the photograph because I had taken it. You should put this up, Ethan said. I will. Where are the ones with you in them? In the box. He searched and found the Niagara Falls photograph Connor had taken, the one with Ethan blinking and Marlene smiling. He set it beside the first frame. You look ridiculous, he said. I had a poncho. You're holding it like a skirt. It was raining sideways. He kept looking through the photographs. I kept the shoes, he said. What shoes? The brown ones. You took those home weeks ago. I know. Leah wanted to donate them. You should. I threw them away. Then you didn't keep them. I kept them until yesterday. Progress. He set the photograph on the table. I don't want the house more than I want you, he said. I said nothing. I know it looked that way. It did. I'm sorry. Thank you. He waited, perhaps expecting forgiveness to appear with a sound effect. I'm still angry, I said. I know. I still love you. His jaw tightened. I know, he said, but his voice broke slightly. We unpacked the photographs. The closing happened 4 days later. Before handing over the keys, I went back for one final walk through the house. Connor came. Ethan did too. Neither brought a partner. Neither brought a legal pad. Dana and Mark had not moved anything in yet, so the rooms were empty except for the dining table and chairs. Afternoon light fell across the gray walls upstairs. Connor stood in his old room for less than a minute. Ethan opened his closet, looked inside, and closed it. We met in the hallway. That's it? Ethan asked. What were you expecting? Connor said. I don't know. More. The house had always seemed larger when it contained our lives. Downstairs I found the brass hook near the dining room doorway. Denise had wanted it removed. I had left it because it held Christmas cards. I took a screwdriver from my pocket. Connor watched me. You came prepared. For one thing. I removed the hook and placed it in my coat pocket. A small dark hole remained in the wood. You're stealing fixtures now? Ethan asked. I'll leave them the fake lemons. They're Denise's, Connor said. Then I'm leaving them her problem. We stood on the porch. The faint edge of Connor's shoe print was still visible on the replaced board. Ethan noticed it. What is that? History, Connor said. He did not explain. I locked the front door and held the key for a second before placing it in the envelope Denise had given me. Ethan looked at the sign, now marked sold. Does it feel worth it? He asked. The question might have been an apology for his message. I looked at the house, then at my sons. It feels done, I said. Connor put one hand on my shoulder. Ethan stood close enough that our sleeves touched. For a minute, none of us moved toward our cars. Connor moved first. He stepped off the porch, then turned back as if expecting me to follow. Ethan remained beside me. You want to get lunch? Connor asked. We just had breakfast, Ethan said. You had breakfast. I was busy buying a housewarming gift. You already bought him fake lemons. They were real lemons. They felt fake. They were waxed. I looked from one to the other. What housewarming gift? Connor opened the trunk of his car and took out the ceramic ashtray, the brown one shaped like something a bear had left in the woods. You took that home, I said. I did, and now you're giving it back. I thought your new place needed an heirloom. Ethan picked it up. You can keep keys in it. That's what I said. It's an ashtray, I reminded them. Not anymore, Connor said. It has evolved. I put it in the envelope with the old brass hook. We went to lunch. The next morning, I woke in the apartment before sunrise and did not know where I was. The feeling lasted 3 seconds. Brick wall, tall windows. The building's pipes knocking like someone trapped inside them. Then the room settled around me. At the house, I used to wake before the alarm and identify every sound: furnace, refrigerator, the maple branch against the gutter. Here, I could hear another person shower through the wall and an elevator opening somewhere down the hall. I made coffee, sat at the round table, and realized I had no work to do, no rooms to clear, no buyer requests, no boxes that had to be somewhere else by closing. The brass hook lay beside Connor's ceramic ashtray, both waiting for a purpose. I mounted the hook near the apartment door. It was slightly crooked. I left it that way until after coffee. Connor called at 8:40. Everything okay? I asked. Yeah, what happened? Nothing. Then why are you calling? He was quiet. You said to call when I wanted to talk. I did. So I'm calling. All right. Another silence followed. This was apparently the entire plan. What do you want to talk about? I asked. I don't know. You're doing well. I passed a hardware store. That's a strong opening. They have your drill bits on sale. I have drill bits. I know. It made me think of you. No one had ever admitted that a hardware sale made them think of me. I found it unexpectedly moving. Are you driving? I asked. I'm parked. Where? Outside work. You're early? Rachel says I need to stop treating punctuality as a personality flaw. She's good for you. She says that too. We talked for 9 minutes about nothing I could have fixed. When he hung up, he said, "Talk later, Dad." There had been no house in the conversation. I stood at the sink with the phone in my hand for longer than necessary. Ethan took more time. He called once the following week to ask whether the building manager had repaired the window. When I said yes, he inspected the answer for details. Did they replace the latch or adjust it? Adjust. Does it close all the way? Yes. No draft? Ethan, I'm asking. It's fixed. All right. We discussed the weather, then stopped. How's Leah? I asked. He exhaled. Do you want the polite answer? No. We had a terrible counseling session. What made it terrible? I had to say what I wanted. That sounds unreasonable. I'm serious. So am I. He was quiet. I said I wanted our marriage, he told me. Then Leah asked what that meant, and I didn't know how to answer without listing things. What things? The house, our routines, Sunday dinner, trips, all the stuff that looks like being married. What did she say? She said I was describing the container. I looked at the ceramic ashtray on the table, now holding my spare keys. What do you want from me? I asked. He hesitated. I don't know. Advice? Help? Somebody to agree Leah is difficult. She is difficult. So are you. Thanks. You called. He laughed quietly. I think I just wanted to say it out loud to someone who wouldn't tell me what to do. I can do that. Since when? New policies. He called again 3 days later. Then I called him. That mattered too. I had spent so long resenting my sons for not reaching toward me that I had turned my own hands into evidence. See, I would think, they still haven't come. I never considered that love could be proud on both sides and still fail to cross a room. I did not call to test Ethan. I called because a restaurant beneath my building had a sign advertising trivia night, and I remembered he knew every state capital except South Dakota. Pierre, he said immediately. I knew that. No, you didn't. Do you want to come Tuesday? With you? No, Ethan. With a selected group of strangers. He came. We lost because neither of us knew enough about music recorded after 1995. He argued that the categories were biased. I told him losing was not a procedural error. Connor and Rachel came the following Tuesday. Leah joined the week after that. Nothing repaired itself quickly. Ethan and Leah still fought. Sometimes he slept in the guest room. Sometimes she left counseling furious and drove around for an hour before going home. Their marriage did not become stronger because my house was gone. It became harder to avoid. Ethan told me that, without his old bedroom available, leaving stopped feeling like a temporary step backward and started feeling like an adult choice with adult costs. He had to decide whether he truly wanted to go. He didn't. Leah did not reward that decision by pretending it was enough. She expected him to stay with his full attention, which seemed to exhaust and surprise him. He kept going to counseling. Connor and I talked about the wedding more than once. The second conversation was worse than the first because he had remembered details. The empty chair beside Ethan, Marlene telling the photographer to wait, Connor stepping into the hall during the first dance to see if I was there. I listened. When I started explaining what I had felt that night, he held up one hand. "I know why now," he said. "I'm telling you what happened after you left." So I let him. Later, I told him about the years before the wedding. Watching Cal sit beside Marlene at Thanksgiving. Watching my sons work so hard to make everyone comfortable that my discomfort began to feel like a threat. Connor listened too. We did not agree on the meaning of every memory. We stopped requiring agreement before the memory counted. Marlene called in October and asked what I planned for Thanksgiving. "I haven't decided," I said. "You always cook. I used to have an oven large enough for a turkey." "How large is your oven?" "Oven-sized. Tom. It's smaller." She had already arranged Thanksgiving at the condo. Cal's sister and her husband were coming, along with one of Marlene's friends. Ethan and Connor had been invited, and she assumed they would attend. I told her I might go to the diner. You cannot eat Thanksgiving at a diner. Marjorie says they serve pie. "Who's Marjorie?" "An old friend." There was a pause. "How old?" Marlene asked. 4 years, apparently. "You're impossible." "So I hear." 2 days later, Connor called. "Mom says you're eating with some woman named Marjorie. Marjorie is a waitress." "Oh, what did you think?" "I didn't know. You sounded disappointed." I was preparing to be supportive. "Save it. What are you actually doing?" "I may cook. At the apartment? That's where my oven is." "How many people fit?" "Depends how friendly they are." Another pause. "Can Rachel and I come?" The question was careful. "You're supposed to go to your mother's. We can see Mom Friday. Have you told her? I'm 34. That wasn't my question." "No." I looked across my apartment at the round table. 4 chairs, new wood, one small scratch beneath the edge. "You can come," I said. "Do you want us to?" "Yes." "All right." Ethan called that evening. "Connor says you're doing Thanksgiving." "Apparently." "Leah and I can bring dessert." "Did your mother call you?" "Twice." "Are you still alive?" "Barely." I smiled. "You're welcome here," I said. "Do you have room?" "We'll make room." Marlene did not take the revised plan well. She accused me of splitting the family, then accused Connor of choosing sides, then called back to say she understood, but wanted everyone to know she had already ordered a turkey. Cal solved the crisis by offering to eat more turkey. On Thanksgiving morning, Marlene dropped off a dish of deviled eggs on her way back from the grocery store. "You don't have to feed them," I said. "I made too many." "You made exactly 12, I miscounted. She walked through the apartment with her coat still buttoned. The brass hook held 2 grocery bags near the door. The ceramic ashtray held keys. Family photographs sat on a low shelf near the windows. The bent measuring spoon was in the kitchen drawer beside a new set with red handles. Marlene touched the round table. "This is nice. It's small. So was our first table." "I don't remember." "I do." She looked toward the windows. From the apartment, the courthouse clock was visible against a gray November sky. "You seem all right here," she said. "I am." She nodded. "I didn't want the house," she said. "Not really, I know. I wanted proof that what we had still existed somewhere. It does." "Where?" I considered several answers and distrusted all of them. "Different places," I said. She looked at me, then smiled slightly. "That sounds inconvenient." "It is." Cal honked from the street below. Marlene hugged me. We had not hugged in years. It was brief and careful, with no confusion in it. "Happy Thanksgiving, Tom. You too." She left the deviled eggs. Connor and Rachel arrived early, carrying bread, wine, and a potted plant large enough to require its own chair. Ethan and Leah came 10 minutes later with 2 pies and a card table borrowed from their neighbor. "We need more surface area," Ethan said. "The legs will be in the wrong place," Connor replied. "They're always in the wrong place." We set it beside the round table and covered both with mismatched cloths. 5 adults fit if we angled the chairs. 6 would have required diplomacy. Rachel put the plant near the bad window, which was no longer bad. Leah arranged the pies on the kitchen island. Ethan inspected the turkey and asked if I had used a thermometer. I held my hand over it. "You didn't." "Then why ask?" Connor opened the refrigerator. "Where do you want the eggs?" "Top shelf." "It's full. Move the mustard." "You have 4 kinds. They serve different purposes." He looked at Rachel. "He's become fancy." "I have Dijon." "Exactly. We ate too much." The turkey was slightly dry. Rachel's bread was excellent. Ethan tried to compliment the stuffing and accidentally described it as moist, which caused Connor to object to the word for the rest of the meal. No one sat in a customary place. There were no customary places. After dinner, Leah and Rachel cleared plates. I stood to help. "Sit," Leah said. "It's my apartment." "And my soap," Connor called from the kitchen. "I'll reimburse you." Ethan stacked leftovers into containers. He labeled one for Connor and one for himself, then made a third for Marlene and Cal. I watched my sons move around the small kitchen without asking whether anything would stay the same. Connor opened one drawer, then another. "Dad, where do you keep the serving spoon?" "In the drawer beside the stove." "This is the drawer beside the stove. The other side." Ethan looked over his shoulder. "He keeps everything in the wrong drawer now." Connor found the spoon. "You want coffee, Dad?" Ethan asked. "Yes." Neither word arrived with urgency. No one needed a room. No one was asking me to delay a decision, fix a furnace, keep a table, or remain exactly where they had left me. Connor carried the spoon to the table. Ethan measured coffee into the machine. Outside the windows, the courthouse clock lit against the dark. I sat beneath the crooked brass hook and listened to my sons argue over how many cups of water to use. For the first time in years, Dad was simply who I was.